All right, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. We've figured it out here, and we're going to continue with this issue of this startling rise in younger adults with serious diseases that usually come from decades of alcohol abuse. We have Zincle Esimwa exploring what's driving this trend. Take a look.
Austin Johnson almost died 4 years ago from severe liver disease. He was just 29.
I thought it was normal coming home after work, even just getting drunk, calling friends up drunk. Everything had to be revolved around drinking.
So the healthy liver looks kind of like this.
Oh my goodness,
So see the difference?
They're not even close.
Yeah.
Doctors like Jessica Mellinger at the University of Michigan Health say he's one of a growing number of young people with livers so damaged by alcohol, they look like those from lifelong heavy drinkers.
You've treated alcohol-related liver disease your entire career. How has it changed?
We're definitely seeing younger and younger patients coming in with what we previously thought was, advanced liver disease that patients only in their middle ages, 50s, 60s would get.
Between 2009 and 2016, the rate of deaths from liver disease caused by alcohol nearly tripled among 25 to 34-year-olds. And doctors say it's only gotten worse with more people drinking during the pandemic. Possible causes include underlying trauma, plus increased isolation and economic uncertainty.
Good to see you.
Austin finally got help through a unique program called the Michigan Alcohol Improvement Network. The treatment model links patients with a team of physical and mental health practitioners.
You don't typically see a psychiatrist like yourself in a liver clinic.
No.
Including addiction specialists and psychiatrists like Dr. Scott Winder.
When a professional shows compassion, opens the door for a long-term relationship, holds back any judgment or prejudice, these people sometimes just weep.
I feel the emotion from you right now.
It's perhaps one of the most profound experiences you can have.
The goal, treat the mind and the body at the same time to prevent relapse and better understand a patient's drive to drink. Early results appear promising. The program's been a game changer for Austin.
Do you think you'd be alive today if you hadn't found the clinic?
No, I'd be dead.
A novel approach to care, helping provide the building blocks for a healthier future. Zincle Esimwa, NBC News, Detroit, Michigan.
Staying with the same topic, thousands of people across the country are into the second week of dry January. Researchers say cutting out alcohol, even just for 1 month, can have huge benefits that last well into the year. One study in BMJ Open found that people who stopped drinking for a month saw significantly improved metabolism. Medical professionals also say taking a break from alcohol can help you sleep better and elevate your mood as well as energy levels. All right, we're learning more about this crash. A suspect is charged with this crash that killed a Memphis firefighter. The suspect's blood alcohol level, according to investigators, 3 times the legal limit. That's according to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And the victim's daughter says more needs to be done to be sure that justice is served. Kelly Cook has this story.
Just absolutely insane. I've never heard of it being and blood alcohol level being that high.
It's been nearly 5 months since Stephanie Martin's father, David Pleasant, was killed responding to a call. Pleasant was behind the wheel of a fire truck with lights and sirens on when police say 39-year-old Maurice Yarbrough ran a red light in his Ford F-150 on E.H. Crump Boulevard at a high rate of speed. The impact caused the fire truck to overturn, ultimately killing the father of 4. According to court documents, Yarbrough blood alcohol content was 0.240. That's 3 times the legal limit of 0.08.
For you to be that closed off to where you can't see a big red fire truck driving in front of you and to be going that fast.
The TBI official alcohol report was issued on October 29th. However, a warrant for Yarbrough's arrest wasn't issued until more than a month later. Yarbrough was arrested December 15th. He has since posted his $50,000 bond, but Pleasant's daughter wants to see more charges.
If that's what we have to do to make sure this doesn't happen to another family, And there was also other firefighters injured too. I think there should be charges for them too. You shouldn't have to die just to receive justice.
Anyway. All right, 3 other firefighters were injured in this crash. Yarborough is facing 7 charges, including driving without a license, vehicular homicide. That's been upgraded to include intoxication. He's set to be due back in court January 24th. A Memphis mother says she wants to be part of a solution to curb violent crimes committed by juveniles. LaWanda Taylor is still grieving after her son, 33-year-old Shamarez Taylor, was murdered back in August. The investigation is ongoing. No arrests have been made in the case, and we don't know the ages of the suspect. But after watching surveillance footage here, Taylor believes teenagers are responsible for her son's deaths. She says she's also taking a stand of her own by forming a group on gun violence. Listen.
It's going to be called Mothers Against Gun Violence, Inc. So we're in the early stages of starting this.
33-year-old Shamarez Taylor's murder is still unsolved. If you have any information about this case, you can leave a tip, be eligible for a reward, and be anonymous about it. You can call or text Crime Stoppers. That number is 901-528-CASH. All right, we got some funeral arrangements here for Lola Mitchell, also known as Memphis rapper Gangsta Boo. They have been finalized. It's this Saturday from 12 until 1:30. Brown Baptist Church in South Haven. Gangsta Boo, best known as one of the members of 3-6 Mafia. She died New Year's Day at the age of 43. Cause of death is unknown. Okay, trial for an Arkansas man accused of participating in the attacks on January 6th, expected to begin today. Richard Barnett facing charges for the January 6th riot. He was photographed there. This was Nancy Pelosi's desk, but his trial has been moved to March. It is now in March. Okay, a Memphis man facing first-degree murder also expected to be in court today. Vincent Patterson accused of killing Barshay Wilson, who was reported missing after he left a party to take a phone call. Investigators say a Camaro with Wilson's ID was found after it was set on fire. His body was found about 75 yards away. Patterson told police he and another man shot Wilson, took his marijuana, set fire to the Camaro after dumping the body. Wilson was just days away from graduating from the University of Memphis before he died. All right, Memphis police currently investigating what led to a shooting in downtown over the weekend in the entertainment district there. Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas has more on that.
Just before 10 p.m. Saturday, Memphis police says officers responded to the area of Peabody Place and 2nd Street where they found one victim shot. A downtown garage worker tells Action News 5 they heard around 15 gunshots ring out. It's what made the Flying Saucer restaurant terrified. Managers closed the doors and had customers shelter in the back. The president emeritus of Downtown Neighborhood Association says although the 38103 zip code is one of the safest areas in Memphis, it's important to always stay vigilant.
Downtowners, we all need to be on alert when we're traveling anywhere because this kind of thing can happen anywhere from downtown to Carterville, from North Memphis to South Memphis.
Memphis police says the gunshot victim was transported to Methodist University Hospital in non-critical condition.
Still searching for suspects in that case. No one is in custody. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation taking a deeper look into an arrest made by Memphis police officers over the weekend. Happened at a traffic stop here. This is near Rains and Ross Roads. Memphis police say officers tried to stop the suspect for reckless driving. The suspect reportedly ran, and then there was a confrontation between officers and the suspect. They tried to make an arrest. Officers say that suspect then reportedly had trouble breathing, was taken to St. Francis Hospital. This incident remains under investigation. Okay, New Year's resolutions. We've been talking about it a lot over the course of the last few days, even before 2023. Which ones are the best ones to have? Which ones can you keep? How is it that most Americans give up after the first month? I mean, that's pretty sad when you think about it. You got to chuckle about it. But when we also talk about the new year, we talk about a new you and perhaps a new career path, of course. Career, workplace, that's something on top of mind of many people. Let's talk about the latest data when it comes to the current job markets and tips for launching a successful job search. Let's bring in our friend we've talked to several times in the past, Angela Copeland, who is now the founder of Copeland Coaching. Angela, Happy New Year to you. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So is it now perhaps the best time, or at least a good time, to make a career move? What do you say?
Now is an excellent time. A lot of companies, over the holidays put hiring on hold. And if you were thinking of looking for a job, this is the time that they are starting to open back up to hiring. And it's a perfect time to start looking. There are so many resources available. It's a perfect New Year's resolution. It's a great time to start.
Last year, Angela, when we talked, you mentioned that it was very much an employee market. I think everybody agreed to the indicators that it was an employees market. Is it still that way? Has it changed at all? What do you see?
It's a great question. I think it's a little more nuanced than the last time we spoke, because we have seen in the news there have been tons of layoffs over the last, few months. But I would keep in mind that those layoffs are in very particular industries, like they're in tech, for example. So there are many industries like travel, financial services, government that are actually still doing really well. And our unemployment rate overall for the U.S. in November was still 3.7%, which is a very healthy unemployment rate. So there are many companies that are still hiring. It is still a good time to be looking. I will say the dynamics have shifted some since the last time that we spoke, but it is a great time to be looking.
What type of jobs are in demand in 2023? You mentioned that there's been a lot of layoffs in tech. What are you seeing most in demand?
The industries I would really focus on are those that will do well through a recession, for example. And some of the areas to look in are banking, like financial services, government. The budget for 2023 was approved, and it is more than it was the previous year. And, other industries like travel, we've seen people starting to travel again. So it's kind of across all job functions. But, hotel companies, for example, are hiring again in a way that they weren't maybe this time last year. So I would really kind of focus on that. And as you're looking online for jobs, you'll see which companies seem to have more jobs posted, which companies seem to be doing better. There's just so much information when you go out and search.
Okay, so now we've talked about, where people need to search, what kind of jobs. It is a good time to kind of make this career move. So let's talk about those secrets to launching a successful job search, because we all know that launching a search is almost like having a job in of itself.
It is a job. And the thing is, it is a tough job. Job searching has really evolved in the last, let's say, 10 years. And if you haven't looked in a while, you'll feel very discouraged because you may have to apply to 100 jobs to get one job offer. And you may have family members, especially older ones, that say, like, what's your problem? Like, why aren't you getting a job? But you have to understand that with the way that so many job seekers apply online nowadays, it is a harder process than it used to be. It is really a numbers game. So I would say don't get discouraged. Find a friend who is also job searching that you can kind of commiserate with. Don't totally rely on family as you're talking about your struggles. And, another thing I really like to recommend is if you have a connection to a company, or if you can kind of figure out who the hiring manager is, rather than just applying online, to actually send an email to that person, because you really stand out when you're the one applicant that actually took the time to send an email as opposed to just applying online.
Last time we talked about various employers, again, having almost the upper hand in the job market, many of them asking for that work-life balance, working remotely. What are the trends you're seeing now in 2023? Is working remotely still one of those trends that people want, or at least they ask for, and then they get them from the employer?
It is such an excellent question. This is a really hot topic right now. So you've probably noticed in the last few months, especially, many employers have started asking employees to come back into the office, which lots of employees do not want to do because after 2 years of working from home, we really saw that it was possible. So I think a big change in the job market right now is that some companies are offering totally work from home, others are asking you to come in person, and some are giving sort of a hybrid option. So if you're a job seeker, pay attention to which is which. There are fewer work from home jobs posted right now than there were this time last year. And there's also more competition for those jobs. So I would say on the flip side, if you're a company that's struggling to hire, switching your jobs to work from home is a really good strategy because, employees, a lot of them really appreciate the flexibility of working from home. I do think, though, employers are looking for other ways to provide flexibility, whether it's like mental health days or other sorts of, different benefits that are sort of new and different. But work from home is becoming a little more rare than we saw before.
Okay, so we've talked about the job search. We've talked about various trends. We've talked about what we're seeing in 2023. Now, how do we get job seekers to negotiate the best offer that they can get?
Ooh, also very important. So I think the first thing as a job seeker is to do your homework. We are so lucky in today's day and age that there are websites like Glassdoor and LinkedIn that have a lot of salary data. So you can look on Glassdoor, for example, and you can search for a particular company, say FedEx, for example, and you can search by job title and you can get a pretty good idea of what they're paying. The other thing is when you go through the interview process, a recruiter will very often ask you in the very first interview, how much do you make or how much do you want to make? And it is much more acceptable today to turn around and say, wow, that's a great question. Would you be willing to share your range with me? And very often the employer, that recruiter, will tell you roughly what they are looking to pay. And you can say, yes, I think we're in the same ballpark without really truly disclosing your numbers. So if you're moving from one industry to another, sometimes you can even double your salary doing this because maybe this different industry pays much more money. So I think that is really the first start is don't, show your cards right away, and instead ask questions and have done your research in advance.
What about with you specifically, Angela? What are your clients' biggest struggles that you're hearing?
The biggest struggle, I think, is really the way job searching feels now. In the past, it felt more personal versus now you're often applying sort of into a black hole. You often don't hear back, or you may interview for a company 10, 11 times and then not hear even a rejection. So the entire process feels harder, I think, than in the past. And really, that is the part that the person has to overcome. I often recommend that people kind of keep a spreadsheet of sort of where they have applied and what's going on so they can kind of keep track and set goals for themselves. How many jobs are they applying to, every week or every month so they can really see. And again, it really comes down to just, it doesn't feel great. So seeking out a resource, a friend who's also job searching, they're going to have the same struggle and they will really be able to empathize with you.
Angela, let's flip the coin a little bit. What advice would you give hiring managers to land the best talent that's out there?
That is such a good question. So often hiring managers, especially I would say at well-known companies, really take for granted the experience that the person interviewing has. So if you are really interested to land the best talent, it's get back to people when you tell them you will. It is be prompt, it's be transparent. If you've decided to put a job on hold, let the person know. And I think truly, if you want the biggest number of applicants to pick from, make the job remote. Again, so many people want work from home and there are less work from home jobs available now than there have been in the past.
Angela, this has been so informative to so many of our viewers out there. Any lasting comments before we let you go?
No, I would just say, really get started now. This is the perfect time. Employers really are hiring. Don't buy into the hype that everyone is being laid off because they're not. get going and expect it to take, 2 or 3 months and just kind of prepare yourself for that.
All right, she is the founder of Copeland Coaching. She knows the insight, the market trends, and has great advice if you're looking for a new career and a new job search. Angela Copeland, we always appreciate the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. We're starting off our day with some sunshine. A look at here in Midtown Memphis, but we'll end up with clouds rolling in here a little bit later today. Now it'll be gradual, partly cloudy by noon. We'll end up at 49 by then, 56 degrees at 3 o'clock, but mostly cloudy at 3 today. It won't be dark and cloudy. You'll still have some sunshine in between those, but just giving you a heads up, you'll notice more later. 52 degrees at 5, and then we're down to 47 at 7 o'clock tonight. Partly cloudy this evening and not as cold as what we had last night. Last night, most of us were around the freezing mark of 32 degrees. Tonight in Memphis, around 40, 37 in Somerville, 36 in Brownsville. We're at 36 in Bolivar tonight. Mid to upper 30s across North Mississippi, 38 in Clarksdale, right around 37 in Holly Springs, and then upper 30s from Forest City into Helena, and 39 in Marion tonight. High temperatures tomorrow, though, back up into the 60s, and then upper 60s to near 70 on Wednesday, lower 30s on Thursday. But check out that drop in between Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back down to the 40s. Look at that. That'll be because of a cold front moving through. And that front, you guessed it, will also bring us our next chance for rain. A first alert to some showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Most of those will be in the morning into early afternoon. Let's check out first alert futurecast. So as we go past midnight, rain starts moving in. So overnight Wednesday into Thursday, some showers begin from Blytheville into Jonesboro. Rain moves through Memphis probably around 7 a.m. Some of the heaviest rain will be in northeast Mississippi between 11 and noon. Oxford, Ripley, Corinth, and DeSelmer could have some rumbles of thunder, even some small hail with this, but then it's out of here as we get through the afternoon. So by 3 o'clock we dry out, and we'll even see some clouds moving out that evening. Rainfall totals about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, so it'll be a pretty good soaking for us on Thursday morning and early afternoon, but not enough rain to where I think we'll see any flash flooding or anything like that. And again, severe chances low with this. Over the weekend, we keep it dry and sunny, but again, it will be colder behind that front. Temperatures in the upper 40s on Saturday. We'll have some cold nights. Saturday night into early Sunday morning, we're down into the 30s, and then 55 is the high on Sunday. You can always get your forecast on our First Alert Weather app, including that weekend forecast if you want to see that again. And we just posted an update detailing the timing for that Thursday rain if you want to check that out again too. It's 56 degrees today, 40 tonight, 61 on Tuesday. We're in the upper 60s on Wednesday, lower 60s Thursday, and then temperatures in the 40s Friday, Saturday, back up to 55 on Sunday.
Let's talk a little bit about meditation and mindfulness. Those are two things that, from what we understand, can really help us during very stressful moments, during this stressful time, I guess you can say, unprecedented times that we are living through right now. And joining me now to talk about meditation and mindfulness is Dr. Gail Gazelle. She's an assistant professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Gazelle, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate every time you join us. How are you?
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So let's talk about meditation and mindfulness, because there are so many benefits that maybe people don't realize, especially in this time in this age where we're just trying to lower the temperature, lower that stress that we feel each and every day.
Without a doubt. And when we think about healthcare, really, it's chock full of stress. The stakes are so very high. Certainly before the pandemic, many sick patients, not enough resources necessarily to take care of them, a lot of time pressure, emergencies upon emergencies. And of course, with the pandemic, the temperature, as you say, has really been turned up. And we don't learn a lot in our training as physicians or nurses or technicians or therapists in how to calm ourselves and how to really manage all of the stress that we experience. And for me, that's where I see mindfulness and meditation really having a critically important role.
Right, because physicians and other medical professionals, they know how to take care of others, but a lot of times it's at the expense of their own health. And we can learn a lot from not only how to protect themselves and their mental issues and their mental state, but also that kind of protection can also just talk to all of us, speak to all of us when it comes to just really kind of building that calmness inside, right?
It's so very true. I think when the public hears the word mindfulness, our minds can go to robed and bald-headed monks on a mountainside, can't they? And yet, what I think about for mindfulness, particularly in healthcare, for both doctors and patients, is really the mastery over our own minds. I mean, let's face it, our minds are very busy places, 10 to 20,000 thoughts a day. And some of those thoughts are great. They're really full of purpose and they help guide us. But when we focus on our own thoughts, whoever we are, we begin to realize that our minds are complicated places. A lot of the thoughts and stories that our minds spin are really actually fake news, and they can drag us down. They can take us to a very negative place, increasing our anxiety, increasing our stress levels. So without a doubt, we can all benefit from learning tools to manage our own busy minds.
So our minds have 10,000 to 20,000 thoughts a day. That's really an extraordinary number and a fact there. How do we bring down that complication and make it really simple for us to make our minds work for us in terms of bringing down the stress level?
Well, what's really important is getting to know our own busy mind, and that's where meditation is so important. When we meditate, we're not banishing thought, but we're sitting quietly and we're just getting to know what it is that's going on in our mind. And what I find is that when I teach meditation to busy doctors and others, they're shocked. They had no idea that their mind was such a busy place. And when we think about that in medical terms, well, we can't treat something, we can't intervene until we diagnose it. So what I mean by that is we have to diagnose our own mind in a friendly way, not in a judgmental way. We don't sit there meditating thinking, what's wrong with me for having all these thoughts? We just notice, look at how busy my mind is, and let me get to know, let me befriend my own mind and get to know what's here. Why? So that I can work with my own mind and not be so much the servant of it, but become actually the one who's the master over it. And that, I think, is really the beauty of what mindfulness can offer all of us.
So we want to get the stress point to be reduced. We also want more calmness in our lives. What about the positivity aspect? How do we become more grateful in our lives?
Well, again, my focus is doctors and healthcare, and the public may not realize just how critical doctors learn to be of ourselves. As you mentioned, we're there to take care of others, so we don't learn to take care of ourselves. Sometimes we're not even on our own to-do list. But as we get to know that pattern of self-criticism, which again is not just the purview for doctors and healthcare, but we can all suffer from that, we begin to realize that perhaps it isn't helping us to be so critical of ourselves, to be so negative, to go down the negativity bias that affects all of us. And that's where I think we can get to know our own patterns. We can recognize when our thoughts are taking us into a negative, unhelpful direction, and we can course correct. Again, that's one of the skills that we get with mindfulness. For myself, I've gotten to the point where I can notice, oh, there goes my silly mind, kind of criticizing me again, looking at all the negatives around me. Do I really have to follow that train, or would it be more helpful for me in terms of what's going on right now to shift my thoughts more in a positive direction? So it's not about, oh, just put on a smiley face and everything will be great. It's about getting to know your own mind and really working with it in the most constructive way that you can.
You know, doctors and all kinds of medical professionals, they really get worn down by all the sickness they see, and especially during the pandemic, it has been tough for that profession. There's no question about it. How do they and other medical professionals build resilience with mindfulness?
Such an important question because, the toll on healthcare workers has always been high. Again, it's a very high stakes profession, and we go into it knowing that and embracing that and wanting to do what we can to help those around us. But what do we do when there's a situation like the pandemic where the stresses are really just, something that's unprecedented for all of those in healthcare? And so we can build resilience very importantly by building moments of calm into our day. Even the busiest day, it can be like running a marathon if we don't learn how to pause and actually kind of cool ourselves down and have moments of calm. With mindfulness, we can take those kind of pauses, those mindful pauses. We can notice when we're just running mentally and physically, and remind ourselves that if we're going to get through this marathon of healthcare, that we actually need to kind of take these mental timeouts. One very practical step that I recommend to healthcare providers is that in between patients, we simply pause and take at least one slow, deep breath, maybe even 3. It sounds so incredibly simple, but it can actually help us regulate ourselves and help us give us what we need to run this marathon that we are in healthcare.
So if someone's listening to this interview and they're trying to figure out, okay, I like the idea of meditation, I like the idea of mindfulness and building up that calm and a positive idea of how to approach daily routines, where would you tell them to start?
Well, there are a lot of wonderful apps out there now. Calm, 10% Happier, Headspace, there are a ton of them. I have a free 14-day mindfulness meditation course where in less than 10 minutes a day, I guide individuals in a brief mindfulness topic and then in a meditation. And people can access that on my website, gailgazelle.com. It's a free offering, and that's often a good place for people to get started.
Is there any mindset, we're talking about mindfulness, but is there any mindset when you approach this type of 14-day course or this type of attitude, hey, I need to lower my stress every day, I need to feel better about what I do each and every day. What else can we tell people to really kind of help them through this all?
Well, I think we can tell people that it's normal to experience stress. It's normal. It's part of the human condition, and it's normal to have a busy mind. There's nothing wrong with you, any of your listeners, if you're sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me that my mind is so busy and that I don't know how to quiet it? So I think that's really important, that we don't judge ourselves for being in the human condition and not learning these skills. Again, I often feel that if medical training covered some of these skills, that for me as an executive coach for burnt out physicians and physician leaders, I'd be happily out of a job, because these are skills that all of us can learn. So I think if your viewers take nothing else away, it's a sense of hopefulness that we all can become more the master of our own mind rather than, frankly, the servant.
Completely agree with you, Dr. Gazelle. It's one of the benefits, I guess, one of the good things that we can say that's come out of this pandemic is this emphasis, this focus on mental health and having this idea, having this routine that you say, this 14-day course to really kind of focus in and hone in on ways to bring down the stress level, make sure there's more calmness in your life, make sure there's more positivity, is something that we all need for sure. Anything else you'd like to say before we let you go?
Well, again, just to emphasize that this is more than possible. We don't have to go off to a mountaintop for hours a day. We can build these moments of self-awareness and self-reflection into our days really by paying attention and by pausing and by working with our own busy mind. This is more than possible for all of us in healthcare and all of us as a nation.
Dr. Gail Gazelle, thank you. Always appreciate our conversations, and we look forward to future conversations with you. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Well, Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. Like they were talking about, we're now in 2023, a new year, and I want to bring in commercial appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler joining us today because, Jennifer, I know you obviously huge food person. You're the person I want to go to if I'm saying, hey, where's a good place to go if I want to get amazing Asian food or whatever. You know the place in town. And you put together a story about your 5 top eats for 2022. I don't even know how you did that. How are you doing this morning, by the way?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is a story I do at the end of every year, and it is probably one of the most fun stories I get to write, but also one of the hardest because I have to narrow it down to 5, where I can tell you I've eaten so many good things throughout the year. But here's what I did to kind of help myself narrow it down. My rule is that it has to be something that I tried for the very first time in the year.
Okay.
So that really
helps a little bit.
That really helps narrow it down a little bit. And then also it helps me, and I try to also find things that are affordable. So I try to stay anything less than $25 so that everyone can go out and try those. So I'm not trying to do something that's, fancy, that's, over the top, that I paid $50 for a dish. Instead, I'm looking for things that somebody can go out and get for $10, $15. So those are kind of the parameters I gave myself when I'm doing this list. And I also really focus on only writing about people that are Memphis-owned businesses. So no chains are ever included in this list, even though I've eaten some good food at chains. But that's how I kind of curated my list here.
Well, let's
get started.
Let's roll out. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The first one is the Good Fortune Company. They have the best chicken wings I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I have to tell you, there is a picture of me eating them. They're called the GFC wings, and these are not your normal wings. And I have to admit, I love a good chicken wing, but I usually only eat them like at the Super Bowl, or if I'm watching a football game or something like that. And but every time I go to Good Fortune Company, I order these, and I joke that I think they should be called finger looking good chicken because KFC can't hold a candle to these things. They are made with so much love. They are marinated. They are then fried once, and it's actually their whole batter that they use is gluten-free. It uses multiple flours. They're fried once, then they sit, and then they're fried a second time right before serving, so that makes them extra crispy. And the sauce is actually, this is very funny, it is a vegan sauce. It's like a honey Szechuan sauce. So it's got a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat, but not too much. And one of the reasons they made it vegan is because so many people love this sauce, they decided to do a version with tofu for vegetarians. So if you like chicken, get the GFC wings. If you're a vegetarian, but you love the flavors of, hot wings, get the ones made with tofu. Equally, they're a little different, but equally as delicious. So Good Fortune Company chicken wings.
Hey, I want to ask though, what is this beverage that you have here? It looks delicious and it looks different. So I want to hear more about that too.
Well, yeah, so one of the things I love about Good Fortune Company, I mean, it is a tiny little place downtown on South Main, but they make everything from scratch. And as I said, they give all that love just to making a chicken wing. They make all their dumplings from scratch, all the noodles for their ramen bowls, noodle bowls from scratch. And they also have a very, very creative bar. And so that one is a matcha cocktail that I believe had whiskey in it. Ooh. And it was really tasty. And I love that little glassware. It's served like a little glass milk carton.
Right,
Isn't that
I love
hysterical?
that.
But it was really tasty. So it's always fun to go, and I always have a great time at Good Fortune Company. It's a neat little restaurant downtown. If you haven't been, it's been open maybe 2 years, maybe 3.
Oh, wow.
And Arturo Lighton and Sarah Kai are the 2 owners, and they just really do a great job there.
Man, so they opened during the pandemic, it sounds like. Wow.
It was right, I believe it was right before. I mean, like literally right before. They were one of those restaurants that have been open maybe a month.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean, I've heard really good things, and obviously they're thriving and doing really well, so I love to hear that. But, okay, so let's get back to this list. I know I got a little sidetracked there. So what's next?
Well, the next one on my list is I'm going to do the wedge salad at Gray's Fine Cheeses. Okay, I know you're saying salad, but look at the salad. That is not your ordinary salad. So Gray's Fine Cheeses is over in East Memphis off Mendenhall, and it is a cheese shop that also is a wine bar. And one of the things that I love to do there is go get one of their charcuterie and cheese plates and a glass of wine. And then I feel like I need to have something a little healthy. So I ordered this wedge salad, which of course covered with Benton's bacon, a homemade blue cheese dressing. It has pickled red onions. You can see that's everything bagel seasoning over the top.
That's the best.
They actually even roast and olive oil cure the cherry tomatoes that go in there. Again, just somebody taking extra steps to really elevate something that we all know and love into something really, really special. And I have to tell you, I think this is my favorite version of a wedge salad, not that I've just had in Memphis, that I have had anywhere, anytime. It is really over the top, and you can see it's huge. It can feed two. Because as I said, what I normally do is get the charcuterie and cheese plate and that, and we kind of split and share.
Right. And see, when I was first looking at your list, and I was like, wait, a wedge salad? And then I start reading the details, and you look at it here, and I mean, the bacon, I mean, it's loaded with bacon. I'm a girl that loves some blue cheese. And then those pickled onions. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just every bacon and any day bacon. It's Benton's bacon, you know, from East Tennessee, which is this really just wonderful, smoky bacon that is just, it's heaven. Really good on that salad.
Yeah, it looks delicious. It makes me want to go get one. So you sold me.
Okay, so next on my list, okay, this one may not look as pretty, but I have to tell you, oh my gosh, it's so sinfully good. Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen has a blue crab top focaccia. So, as I said, the picture doesn't do this dish justice. So Andrew Michael makes their focaccia in-house, and it is really, really a well done piece of bread. And so what they do for this dish is they toast it. And the chef there, Chef de Cuisine there, he is originally from New Orleans. And so what he did is he kind of did a play on kind of like crab au gratin that you get in New Orleans restaurants. That is kind of like crab that's mixed with white wine and heavy cream and simmered down. And it's like warm and it's rich and it's just so good. Well, he puts that over the top of this piece of butter toasted focaccia, and then he takes a paper thin slice of manchego cheese and lays it across the top and puts it under the broiler. So you get this kind of like, at the end you can see where the cheese is kind of like, you know, almost like browned a little bit. So you get this kind of like creamy, crispy cheese thing going on, and then underneath all that is the crab that is just like so rich and so divine. I have to tell you, this is one of those dishes you probably do want to share because it is so over the top rich, but it is just divine. I think I've said that 5 times. That's the best way I can describe this dish.
I love listening to you talk about food because you could sit here and look at it and read the description, but when you start talking about those flavors and like the cream and the way that the cheese gets broiled on there, I'm like, man, it's just like, I'm hungry already. And I just ate breakfast. So if that says anything.
Well, I love to eat. I have to always have. That's why I have this job, is I love to eat. I'll always be on a diet because I love to eat. Speaking of not being on a diet, if you love a fried chicken biscuit, you have to go downtown on a Saturday or Sunday to Comeback Coffee to the Kinfolk pop-up. So Cole Jeans is a chef here in Memphis, and he makes the best biscuits I've ever eaten in my entire life. And he tried to start Kinfolk as a business years ago. If you remember when Puck Food Hall first opened, I think it was called at the time 409 South Main Food Hall, or he was one of the original vendors in there, and he was doing biscuit sandwiches. And then that concept kind of went through the food hall went through some changes. So he left there and he went to go work for Jimmy Gentry that owns P.O. Press, or owned P.O. Press, which was a restaurant in Collierville. And he was the sous chef there, and he ran the brunches, and he had these biscuits back on the brunch. And so we got to have those biscuits again for a little while. And then P.O. Press closed. And it's been a couple of years, and those biscuits are back. And I have to tell you, they're like Southern biscuit, but made kind of has like a French style. It has herbs de Provence in it. And what he does is he cooks the biscuit. And the only reason I really know what he does is he sold some of these at the holidays frozen that people could take home and bake themselves. And so what you do is you bake the biscuit, which has a ton of butter in it. It's so rich and so good. And then what you do is he brushes the top with a honey butter and puts it in a really high temperature in the oven. So it gives it this kind of like, almost like caramelized top to the biscuit. So the biscuits alone are fabulous, but just like the folks at Good Fortune Company, he has given a lot of love to a piece of chicken to make this fried chicken that goes on this biscuit so good. He marinates it. He uses chicken thighs, so they're a little bit richer. Fries it till it's crispy. He has his own spicy honey kind of sauce that he tosses it in. The sandwich also comes with a little smear of, he calls it kinfolk sauce, which is kind of like I guess his play on a Southern comeback sauce. And it is just so, so good. And one of these things that when you're looking at this picture of him holding this, he has in his other hand this salad looking thing that is not really a salad. It is his breakfast bowl that has like hash browns and an omelet and a biscuit and greens on top, and that's an over-the-top breakfast dish that you should try as well. But here's the deal with Kinfolk. It's only on Saturday and Sunday mornings at Comeback Coffee over in the Pinch District. Check times to see when they start. I think they start at 8 or 9 in the morning, depending on which day, but they go till they sell out, and a lot of times they're sold out by noon.
Yeah,
so
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And he does some sweet biscuits too. And, he has a whole menu that you can try, but the fried chicken biscuit was a standout for me.
It looks delicious. Yeah, I'd want a nap after eating it, though. I would, after eating the heaviness, I'd be like, I think I want to take a nap. But just looking at that biscuit, though, like you were describing with the honey, how he puts the honey on top and then, really gets it all crispy on the top. Because I was wondering, I was like, how does he make it look like that? But it's that butter and kind of that caramelization that happens there. And it looks amazing. Amazing.
It is. I keep joking with him. He needs to sell them commercially because they're so good. It's a biscuit like you've never had. And in fact, I will tell you, so this year I served him for Thanksgiving, as I did on my Thanksgiving table. And then I made my own, which I make every year. I make these pimento cheese biscuits, drop biscuits that I serve. My family all loves them. That's my Christmas brunch recipe. And my mom goes, we should have gotten some of those biscuits that we drove downtown to go pick up. I was like, oh, Mom.
You're like, oh, stabbed to the heart. But no, they look delicious.
That's
they look
okay.
So good.
They're worth it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So the last one on my list is, there are menu items that have been on forever on restaurants, and there are a reason they're on forever. And I have a funny story why I've never had this. I'm going to talk about the shrimp pot sticker at Tsunami. So this has been on the menu for years and years and years. And I eat at Tsunami all the time. It has been a favorite restaurant of my husband and I's, gosh, probably for almost the 20 years it's been open. And, but my husband is allergic to shrimp. So I have never ordered any of their shrimp things all these years. And this summer, my sister was in town, and we went and we met up at the bar at Tsunami to have a cocktail, and she ordered the shrimp pot stickers. And I was like, oh, I've never had these before. And she goes, how have you never had these before? They're my favorite. And I went, I don't know. And I took a bite, and I was like, oh, how have I never had these before? And I have to tell you, the next time I went, I told Paul, I go, I'm ordering this and I'm eating it myself. Sorry. What I love about these shrimp pot stickers is that they're light, and they're kind of like, you can tell that they're made with freshness and they're made from scratch. And there's a little bit of spice in the shrimp mixture, and they're hand formed, and they're steamed, and they have a ponzu dipping sauce, and everything is just made from scratch. There's no heaviness like sometimes you get at Asian restaurants. They're just a really nice starter, or in the case I've done once or twice now since I've had them, is they've been my main course when I've gone in. They're really, really, really good. And here's it's one of those dishes too that Ben Smith, who's the owner at Tsunami, says that he cannot take off the menu because he knows that people would be all upset with them. But they actually ended up on the menu as a fluke He always loved pot stickers and dumplings, and he had done some special dinner and he had leftover shrimp, and they used to have a pork version on the menu. And so he experimented one day with the shrimp ones, and everyone loved them so much they stuck. And I mean, that's been over a decade. And he said he knows that if he took them off the menu, everyone would be upset.
Yeah, they'd say forget about, they'd be demanding it back, petitioning to have those back on the menu. I don't know how you did it, but you dwindled it down to 5 bites that all look delicious. And by the way, did you have a good New Year's? How was it?
We had a great New Year. So we always go, my husband is a big fly fisherman, so we always go to Heber Springs with a bunch of friends, and had just a really nice friends and family weekend. So it was good. How about you?
Same. We actually went to Hardy, Arkansas, and got to hang out with a group of friends that all met us over there, and we had a really good time. It's right off the lake, so we enjoyed it. We had a really good time, and the weather was nice, so I couldn't complain. Couldn't complain at all. So yeah, it was good. It was good. So if people,
awesome.
I'm sorry.
Hey, I have a request to you for anyone that wants to give me any suggestions of things I need to try this year in 2023, so they can be on this list next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you're going to get all kinds of suggestions because there's so many options here in town. But people that were maybe watching, they were like, man, my mouth's watering. I want to make sure I know where to go to get these. This story is on commercialappeal.com, correct?
It is. commercialappeal.com/food. All of my stories are always there. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. Well, Jennifer, love having you on as always, and we'll see you next time, all right?
Happy New Year.
See ya. Happy New Year.
Good morning. We're starting off our day with some sunshine. A look at here in Midtown Memphis, but we'll end up with clouds rolling in here a little bit later today. Now it'll be gradual, partly cloudy by noon. We'll end up at 49 by then, 56 degrees at 3 o'clock, but mostly cloudy at 3 today. It won't be dark and cloudy. You'll still have some sunshine in between those, but just giving you a heads up, you'll notice more later. 52 degrees at 5, and then we're down to 47 at 7 o'clock tonight. Partly cloudy this evening and not as cold as what we had last night. Last night, most of us were around that freezing mark of 32 degrees. Tonight in Memphis, around 40, 37 in Somerville, 36 in Brownsville. We're at 36 in Bolivar tonight. Mid to upper 30s across North Mississippi, 38 in Clarksdale, right around 37 in Holly Springs, and then upper 30s from Forest City into Helena, and 39 in Marion tonight. High temperatures tomorrow, though, back up into the 60s, and then upper 60s to near 70 on Wednesday, lower 30s on Thursday. But check out that drop in between Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back down to the 40s. Look at that. That'll be because of a cold front moving through. And that front, you guessed it, will also bring us our next chance for rain. A first alert to some showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Most of those will be in the morning into early afternoon. Let's check out first alert futurecast. So as we go past midnight, rain starts moving in. So overnight Wednesday into Thursday, some showers begin from Blytheville into Jonesboro. Rain moves through Memphis probably around 7 a.m. Some of the heaviest rain will be in northeast Mississippi between 11 and noon. Oxford, Ripley, Corinth, and DeSelmer could have some rumbles of thunder, even some small hail with this, but then it's out of here as we get through the afternoon. So by 3 o'clock we dry out, and we'll even see some clouds moving out that evening. Rainfall totals about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, so it'll be a pretty good soaking for us on Thursday morning and early afternoon, but not enough rain to where I think we'll see any flash flooding or anything like that. And again, severe chances low with this. Over the weekend, we keep it dry and sunny, but again, it will be colder behind that front. Temperatures in the upper 40s on Saturday. We'll have some cold nights Saturday night into early Sunday morning. We're down into the 30s, and then 55 is the high on Sunday. You can always get your forecast on our First Alert weather app, including that weekend forecast if you want to see that again. And we just posted an update detailing the timing for that Thursday rain if you want to check that out again too. It's 56 degrees today, 40 tonight, 61 on Tuesday. We're in the upper 60s on Wednesday, lower 60s Thursday, and then temperatures in the 40s Friday, Saturday, back up to 55 on Sunday.
Okay, later today, we're expecting to hear from Shelby County commissioners on residency requirements for corrections officers. Those who don't live in Shelby County could end up paying $1,500 in penalties. Keeping workers in the area has been a hot topic, especially in terms of recruitment. Well, county commissioners are also expected to talk about a proposed landlord registry. Last week, we told you about State Representative Dwayne Thompson from Cordova filing a bill that would hold property owners and landlords more accountable to their tenants. Residential landlords or land agents in Shelby County would need to list all property they own or manage, and it includes a physical address and their phone numbers, so renters have direct access to them.
There are many renters out there, whether it be in apartments or whether it be in houses, can at least have a number to call to get hold of someone, either the landlord or the landlord's agent, to get the service they need, which they are obligated to get by the lease that they have signed.
State Representative Thompson hopes his legislation will help renters have someone to reach out to directly when they need it the most. Well, today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. It is meant to honor police officers all across the country, all law enforcement across the country, and this includes officers on all levels, local, state, and federal. Ring cameras, they've been a great safety tool, but the device can be manipulated if criminals can hack in and you don't take precautions. Thieves can gain access to security cameras and even make false police reports. Charlie Wojciechowski spoke with a security expert about how you can prevent your camera from being hacked.
I'm your best friend. A strange voice came over the Ring camera in a little girl's bedroom in Mississippi. The family's security system had been hacked. In another instance, police knock on the door of a home after responding to a fake call of a disturbance. Both are examples of what the FBI calls ring swatting. Now 2 men are accused of carrying out a nationwide swatting spree and hacking into dozens of Ring cameras. They've been indicted by a federal grand jury in California. One of the incidents allegedly occurred here in Darien, Illinois about a year ago. When police responded to the house, they found nothing going on and determined it to be a hoax.
The cameras are vulnerable because they are not properly secured.
Cyrus Walker of Chicago-based Data Defenders LLC says you have to not only secure the cameras, but the internet network that allows them to connect to each other and the outside world.
The thing that I always recommend is that users make sure that their wireless networks are as secure as they can be, which means that they have strong passwords, that they're not broadcasting their SSID, that they have encryption enabled to the highest degree, and that they separate the networks.
Walker says the cameras are not the only way in for hackers. TVs, game systems, even refrigerators can be connected to the internet and can be compromised. He says the first thing you should do when you buy a new connected device is change its default security settings.
The device that you bought, someone else bought also, and they have those same default settings.
Cybersecurity, Walker says, isn't difficult, but does require people to do more than just plug in their new devices and turn them on.
Okay, South Haven church members are making sure a local family have the things that they need to get by. Members of Tabernacle Church of God in Christ helped Justin and Ashley Thomas move out of their South Point apartments. According to the couple, the apartment was riddled with mold and plumbing problems, and they were 5 months pregnant.
I'm a type 2 diabetic, so with me hurting myself, it's taking me a while to heal. Going to the chiropractors and stuff because I re-injured my back and everything.
We asked them time and time again to fix it beforehand, and we also put in a work order, and the work order said complete, and it never was complete.
And with financial assistance from the church, Ashley and Justin, and now their 2 daughters, Nyla and Ava, have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home to call their home. Okay, a recent study found that more than 110,000 deaths could be prevented each year in the U.S. if adults over the age of 40 spent an additional 10 minutes a day engaged in some sort of physical activity. So what's holding Americans back? It could be what you don't know. Watch this. Exercise can boost energy, promote weight loss, improve sleep, and lessen your risk for a slew of health conditions. But there are a lot of myths about physical activity that could prevent you from reaping the full benefits. The first fallacy, lifting heavy weights will cause women to bulk up. The truth is, women have lower levels of testosterone, so they won't build massive muscles. Another myth, you can reduce fat in a specific area. You can't control what part of your body burns fat. Also, if you've been told to stick with one type of activity, you've been misinformed. That's because your body gets used to it.
Switch it up. If you're running all the time, take a break and do Pilates and then go back to it.
Another myth, running is bad for your knees. Northwestern Medicine says that regular running strengthens the joints and protects against osteoarthritis. Also, you might have heard that you need to stretch before a workout. But this is untrue. It's more effective to stretch after a workout when your muscles are warm. Also, the notion that exercise will offset a bad diet is also false. Diet and nutrition typically play a larger role than exercise when it comes to weight management. And if you've been told results from exercise come quickly, that's false too.
When you're involved in the gym, you're probably looking at 4 to 6 weeks before you should honestly begin to start to see some changes.
Tense. Another common myth is that you have to sweat in order to have a good workout. Well, factors like temperature, humidity, your hydration levels, that may affect how much you sweat. Additionally, some people's bodies are just more efficient at cooling themselves so that they sweat less. Now, researchers say, let's talk about the treadmill for a minute. They say utilizing several features of treadmills can help burn calories a bit faster. Consider turning up the speed of the treadmill to change your pace. If that's too much, you can do like interval training where you go really fast, take a break, and then go really fast again. Or you could try using the steeper method, the incline feature, and go at a slower pace. You know, there's been a lot of talk recently about the demand for retired workers during the labor shortage. And we ran a survey, and there was apparently a survey of 800 retirees all across the U.S. to find out just how many are planning to go back to work and why. And apparently there was 1 in 5 are likely to go back to work this year. Let's talk more about what else this survey had to say with our career expert, Stacy Holler. Stacy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you, Andrew.
So listen, Stacy, I'm thinking about retirees and some of the reasons they're going back to work. And my first thing, just because it's been in the news recently, is the fact that maybe they've had this fixed income for many years and inflation is just blowing them out right now. Is that one of the reasons?
Absolutely, that's one of the reasons. I mean, people thought they had their plan set for retirement, and in so many ways, the world changed in the last 2 years. So everything's flipped around, but absolutely financial reasons are some of the reasons retirees are looking to go back to work.
I understand that, and I can understand why they're going back to work. It makes me sad, because I feel bad for them. They think, oh, okay, I got my nest egg, I'm ready to go and relax. What is I don't know if this survey really kind of gauged this, but what was their attitude of getting back in the workforce? Were they excited? Were they upset about it?
I'm so glad you asked that, because it's been very interesting in my practice and speaking with these folks who are going back. They're actually excited about going back. I've had several conversations in the last week. In fact, this morning I was talking to a 72-year-old retiree who said he missed working. He missed people. He missed collaboration. And I hear from many people that even if the financial reasons aren't the reason that they're retiring, they just thought it was the time to go play golf, they're like, they still want to be engaged. Most of the people I speak with are excited because they have an opportunity to go back to work on their own terms at this stage in their career. They could work flexible hours, they could work remote, they could work part-time. So it's a whole different purview for these folks.
I'm interested, Stacy, maybe a little bit of a deeper dive here. I would think that maybe perhaps they're excited, and I don't know if you gauge this, but they're excited because, for 2 years or so, we've been in this pandemic keeping everybody separate, and now here we are, you have an opportunity to be with people again, and so you're excited about this opportunity. Is that something you saw?
I do. It is partly because of that, for sure. But even if they're working remote, then they have some camaraderie even with remote workers. So yes, that is a part of it. I also have been speaking with a lot of CEOs in the last few weeks, and they are just bored. They're not ready to get out of the game. So I speak to a lot of people who are excited just to be back in the game. They still want to contribute. Older workers are much younger these days.
Very true. Very true. And I understand that they're going back, Stacey, to a different kind of field than they retired from. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's really, they feel like it's an opportunity to do something new and different. And that's why where a little of the excitement comes now. That's not to say, Andrew, that there's a bunch of people that are working because they really need to, and they're not as excited. But I speak to an awful lot of people who want to try something new, or the CEOs want to go into consulting, or I've spoken to people who were in more of my business, recruiting for years, and now they want to do some other type of phone work. So there is a little bit of excitement to do something that maybe you always wanted to do, and you could afford to do that right now and still be engaged. So it really runs the gamut, Andrew. People have a lot of different reasons for going back, but it's not as downtrodden as you would think. These people are excited about still contributing. There is no retirement age anymore in a lot of these people's minds.
Well said, Stacey. I don't know if you have this in your survey, but I'm curious as how employers are reacting to this wealth of knowledge of retirees coming back into the workforce. Any idea? Can we gauge on what they're feeling?
Yeah, those are the people who are reaching out to the retirees. I mean, there's a lot of challenges now in the workplace. Everybody's trying to figure out how to work remote. And it's very welcoming for these people to bring back folks. Some of them are going back to their old organizations part-time, and they're being asked to because they have the experience and the knowledge. They don't have to learn the basics of the workforce, and they can become mentors to other people. And they already have an established experience. So in many ways, it's easier to bring them in with their experience and knowledge that they could share.
What else have we haven't touched on, Stacey, that came out from this survey that you got? Because this is all fascinating to me, and it actually paints a more of an optimistic and upbeat view of things.
For me, from my purview, it is encouraging. I think these retirees who in the past years were very limited as to options. You were told to retire, and then maybe if you still needed to work or wanted to be engaged in work, you had to look locally because you still, at an older age, you might not want to commute 2 hours a day. So you were pretty limited in what your choices are. But the choices for retirees who want to go back to work now is much more open. And that's why you hear in me a little excitement about it, because I'm hearing people who still want to be engaged and have opportunities they didn't have before. So although a lot of them are also doing it for financial reasons, it's not like earlier in their career where they might have taken something that they didn't love because they had to. Retirees are feeling a little more wiggle room in really doing something that they like to do, and they might not have to do it full time. So they could enjoy it more on a part-time basis.
I follow 100%. Anything else, Stacey, before we let you go? This has been very informative. I like it a lot.
Well, I love preaching this and letting people know it's out there, because I do think that there are retirees out there who don't know this is a good time for them. Whether they want to get back in for financial reasons, they just want to stay engaged, they still want to contribute, or there's something they always wanted to do that they might have the opportunity to do now. So I love sharing that information, and I hope those folks out there who still want to be engaged realize they can be if they'd like to today.
Okay, Stacey Holler, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We appreciate your fact-finding mission, and take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you so much.
Well, you may have seen the Wings in Nashville in the Gulch neighborhood. They're famous now. People line up to take pictures, take selfies or pictures with the Wings behind them. It's a creation probably the most well-known by a street artist named Kelsey Montague. She's done art all around the world. I had the chance to speak with her recently over Zoom, talking about her incredible work and her inspiration. Check out our interview. My guest today is Kelsey Montague. She is an internationally known street artist. You may have seen some of her work around the U.S. or anywhere around the world. Kelsey, thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Me too. And so I live in a building in Omaha, Nebraska, where you just painted one of your most recent murals. It is a big rainbow, and I'm going to show some pictures here as well. And there are already people lining up to take pictures with it. And obviously your signature is all of your pieces are interactive. You want people to take pictures with them. Just tell me a little bit about your style and what makes you unique.
Yeah, so I just love, first of all, like whimsical and really intricate. I like filling stuff with different images. I love working with different communities. So my work was really focused on inspiring people to share something that's positive about their life, which a lot of my work has what lifts you on it. Because I really wanted my art to be something that was a platform for something positive or sharing something that's good in your life. And I was just really wanted my work to be something that was not only uplifting, but just really gave people a moment to reflect on something that's good in their life.
I love that. And you are obviously pretty well known for the wings in the Gulch in Nashville is probably one of your more popular designs, but there are hundreds of them around the world, which there's a cool map on your website that folks can explore and see. I read too that you really don't kind of know where the designs come from until you just get out there and doing it. I mean, is there planning that goes, obviously there has to be some planning that goes into them, but as far as the designs and coming up with the unique different things, is there a process for you?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who I'm working with, sometimes people come to me and they say, we want you just to come up with some ideas and just give us like a broad idea of what this might be. Or it could be, we want angel wings. We want, to highlight, a specific neighborhood in a specific city that's known for, coffee or painting so it's really fun for me because even down to the colors of the mural really start to matter. So it's always a mixture. But yeah, it's always really fun when someone's just like draw on the wall, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So some of the ones that I'm going to show these too, as I mentioned them, that kind of stuck out to me. I love the peacock feathers. I think is really cool. The mermaid tails are really cool. We have a giraffe. The flamingo in Poland is pretty iconic. The hearts in Peru are really loved. Is there one or a few or like kind of the most interesting place you've been that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Ooh, there's so many good ones. They all have such special memories for me. I would say the first one I ever did in New York City meant the most because it launched everything for me and it changed my life. And I really feel like I found my voice as an artist with that piece. And then as like internationally, I think one of the pieces I really loved working on was in Dubai. I got to do a cool like hands grasping piece with guest watches, and there was a whole product launch, which was fun. And my mom and my sister got to go, so we got to take our mom and explore, a really cool city abroad. So yeah, it's amazing. There's just so many memories and so many of the different pieces, whether I'm, in the States or overseas, it's always unique and different.
I also like the wings in Ireland that the seagulls or pigeons or whatever there was get in front of. I thought that was pretty cool.
I had a few of those photos sent to me. I don't know what it is, but people kept taking the photos of these pigeons in front of the piece. But that's also what's really great about this, especially, focusing my work really is focused too on social media. And I really believe in the power of that, being able to share whatever you want and not having to have any type of you get to build your own audience right away. And that was something that I really loved because I would create these pieces, even now, and, I leave the city, I give my art and I give everything I have, and then I leave, and then on social media, I get to see these amazing, interactions, and people also, I think are just so creative, and they always take my work to another level. So, and that's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Some of your works are many stories tall. Do you have a fear of heights at all? I mean, I see you working on these big, platform, big, heavy construction equipment. You work in some pretty extreme conditions weather-wise too, probably, huh?
Yeah, actually, Omaha, it was freezing when we were there, and I actually had to extend the piece by a few days to finish it because my drying hand was like, on the border of getting frostbite. So we had to, I think that's part of the challenge of these pieces, especially is that, the weather, you can never control it. And sometimes, if I'm drawing in extreme heat and I have to start drawing at 2 a.m. and I have to finish by 9 a.m., then that's what I do. And I think I've just really learned to try to be as flexible as I can and realize that, anything can happen. And then as far as the machines, I think with heights, like cherry pickers for me are something that I actually feel really safe in. And I'm not afraid of heights unless I don't have a harness on over, like, I'd say if I'm over a certain number of feet in the air, then I'm like, okay, I need a harness, and then I'm fine. But if I don't have a harness, then I get a little, I can get a little scary.
So when you work on something so big, on a scale so big, and you're so up close to the wall, do you have to step back a lot and look at it, or you pretty much stay in the moment in one particular spot the whole time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If there's space, if there's not like power lines, if we're up in a lift, and sometimes it takes, because of those obstacles like a power line or traffic, and it takes like 30 minutes just to get into position. Usually we'll be able to swing out the arm. So the wall will be here and we can just swing out and we can look at the piece that way. Also bathroom breaks are a great time to get down on the ground and just kind of look up at the piece.
So you famously worked with Taylor Swift on some butterfly wings, and then you've also been in the Smithsonian in DC. Which one is the bigger pinch me moment for you?
Oh my gosh, they're both so big. I think Taylor, I love working with other creatives. So I will say that for me is just like, whether it's product design or a musician or, I love it. And it's such a special experience when that gets to happen. So I'll probably say that, but the Smithsonian was still like, I still can't believe it. I still like have pinch me moments. So.
Yeah. Have there been any other celebrities that you've seen taking a picture with your, any of your works that have surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Vanessa Hudgens, Dove Windsor, Jessica Biel. I mean, there's been it's been cool just to kind of, and they just kind of pop up, or someone will message me, and I'm like, that's awesome. But I think whether it's a celebrity or anyone, actually, I hope that my work just makes a positive impact at some point in your day. Because I know life is hard, it's crazy. Creating these murals is crazy. It has a lot of challenges, but it's just so worth it as an artist to be able to do something that might make someone smile or share a good memory with, a family member or a friend.
Sure. Yeah. It would make me smile to see you work with Dolly Parton. I was wondering how you have not done that yet with butterfly wings. You have a Nashville connection. Have you reached out to Dolly?
On the top of my list. It's on the top of my list. I am like I love her so much. So I if she's watching this, I'm game.
Please invite me to the unveiling too.
I will.
I wanted to ask too, are people around the world always receptive? I mean, you always go in, you're invited somewhere. You don't randomly show up and put works on walls, right?
No, I haven't yet. I've always had permission, or, I'm working with someone specific, or someone's got a wall. I mean, I guess, especially in different communities, I'll come in and I'll do a piece in like a multi-development, area. And, sometimes some of the locals I think they're kind of like, well, what happened to the white wall? It's kind of like, change can be kind of funky, but then it's really fun for me to see how protective the community then gets of the piece. For an example, in the Mosaic District, I did this huge giraffe that was like sitting, and it's like sitting on a stairs, and it's hard to say, but like I was so proud of it. And then the client was like, we want you to come back and you're going to paint it pink. And I was like, great, I'm all in. I love that. So we went back, and actually some of the people that were walking by were just like, you're not getting rid of that, are you? And I'm like, no, I drew that. I'm just putting, some color in. And they're like, okay. Cause they're like, we like this. So it's fun to see people kind of, whether their reaction is kind of like, or if it's really good, but usually in the end, it ends pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. And I want to ask you too about the Ukraine stickers that you created, that you're raising money right now for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, I believe it is. Tell me a little bit about the sticker, because it's very unique. And there's different symbols in each letter.
Yeah, and that's something that I really love. My work is always, even before I was doing street art and I was just drawing in coffee shops, on weekends or at night when I had time, I'd love to kind of tell a deeper story. So a lot of my work will have hidden stuff within it. And so with the Ukraine sticker, they're just such a beautiful, beautiful culture and community of people. And I was just pouring over everything I could, from, the type of foods they're known for, the beautiful Easter eggs that they decorate, the famous monuments, and I just, it's like a dream now for me to go to the Ukraine, and especially just wanting to create something that we could help, with the UNHCR, but also that like a Ukrainian person will get and will be proud of and be like, yes, this is something that represents, my culture and my country. And that was really my biggest goal with that.
They are beautiful, and people can buy them on your website. And again, the proceeds go 100% to helping refugees in that terrible situation. So very noble for creating that, and it's really pretty too. And just finally, before I let you go, just what's the bottom line message that you want people to take away if they stumble across one of your pieces and take the selfie with it and post it? The what lifts you is the hashtag on pretty much all of your work. So I mean, what's the main thing you want people to get out of your work?
I think the biggest thing for me is just having someone being able just to take that moment, even if they don't take a photo, even if they don't come back, but just hopefully, like, whether they're just smile for a second or they just think of something positive for a second, like that to me is like, that's the ultimate gift for me as an artist. I always tell people that I want my work to be like a present. If you come around a street corner and you see it, it's like, yes, this is for me, and I know it's for me. And that's something that I just hope my work continues to generate all over the world.
We'll give Kelsey Montague a follow on the socials, check out her website, and be looking for some street art to pop up in a city near you, because it really is incredible, your reach. I couldn't believe the map when I first looked at it. So thank you so much, Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, I really appreciate Kelsey's time talking with me, kind of explaining her process, and just wanted to show you the map here before we go too. So if you go to her website, Kelsey Montague Art, you can click on map, and it brings up this interactive Google map here that you can zoom in all around the U.S. And find some of the different works, and then you can look at, let's see, trying to find, it's these. So you can find some of the different works in the cities around where you live, or if you have a trip coming up, you can click on them, and then they have the pictures of what they are in some of them. And again, it's not just in the U.S. though. It is all around the world. Again, and it's hard to believe when you start looking at this map, all of the different places where Kelsey has made some of these creations. So it's pretty cool. Just want to share that with you as well. Again, KelseyMontagueArt.com.
Good morning. We're starting off our day with some sunshine. A look at here in Midtown Memphis, but we'll end up with clouds rolling in here a little bit later today. Now it'll be gradual, partly cloudy by noon. We'll end up at 49 by then, 56 degrees at 3 o'clock, but mostly cloudy at 3 today. It won't be dark and cloudy. You'll still have some sunshine in between those, but just giving you a heads up, you'll notice more later. 52 degrees at 5, and then we're down to 47 at 7 o'clock tonight. Partly cloudy this evening and not as cold as what we had last night. Last night, most of us were around that freezing mark of 32 degrees. Tonight in Memphis, around 40, 37 in Somerville, 36 in Brownsville. We're at 36 in Bolivar tonight. Mid to upper 30s across North Mississippi, 38 in Clarksdale, right around 37 in Holly Springs, and then upper 30s from Forest City into Helena, and 39 in Marion tonight. High temperatures tomorrow, though, back up into the 60s, and then upper 60s to near 70 on Wednesday, lower 30s on Thursday. But check out that drop in between Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back down to the 40s. Look at that. That'll be because of a cold front moving through. And that front, you guessed it, will also bring us our next chance for rain. A first alert to some showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Most of those will be in the morning into early afternoon. Let's check out first alert futurecast. So as we go past midnight, rain starts moving in. So overnight Wednesday into Thursday, some showers begin from Blytheville into Jonesboro. Rain moves through Memphis probably around 7 a.m. Some of the heaviest rain will be in northeast Mississippi between 11 and noon. Oxford, Ripley, Corinth, and DeSelmer could have some rumbles of thunder, even some small hail with this, but then it's out of here as we get through the afternoon. So by 3 o'clock we dry out, and we'll even see some clouds moving out that evening. Rainfall totals about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, so it'll be a pretty good soaking for us on Thursday morning and early afternoon, but not enough rain to where I think we'll see any flash flooding or anything like that. And again, severe chances low with this. Over the weekend, we keep it dry and sunny, but again, it will be colder behind that front. Temperatures in the upper 40s on Saturday. We'll have some cold nights. Saturday night into early Sunday morning, we're down into the 30s, and then 55 is the high on Sunday. You can always get your forecast on our First Alert weather app, including that weekend forecast if you want to see that again. And we just posted an update detailing the timing for that Thursday rain if you want to check that out again too. It's 56 degrees today, 40 tonight, 61. 61 on Tuesday. We're in the upper 60s on Wednesday, lower 60s Thursday, and then temperatures in the 40s Friday, Saturday, back up to 55 on Sunday.
All right, so Memphians got to hear directly from police about what they're going to do to address the steady rise in auto thefts over the weekend in the Juvenile Crime Summit. Action News 5's Sydney Gray has more on that.
Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis says more than 2,000 juvenile suspects were involved in violent or property crime in 2022. That includes auto thefts, a consistent problem across the Bluff City.
Last year it was almost a fad, a trend for young people to steal cars.
Now, just 1 week into the new year, the department reports auto thefts have more than doubled the amount from last year.
When we think in terms of 10,000 vehicles that were stolen, many of those vehicles that were stolen last year were some of the same young people, that were perpetrating these crimes over and over again.
During the Juvenile Crime Forum, we heard directly from Chief Davis about how the department uses SkyCop to catch criminals. SkyCop video surveillance cameras are placed throughout the city to help officers identify hotspots of crime.
How does SkyCop work in conjunction with MPD in terms of identifying patterns of car thefts? Patterns meaning where they may start driving from before possibly stealing another car.
Every week we examine and really evaluate the various locations where vehicles are being stolen. We don't just evaluate where the vehicles are being stolen, we also evaluate the locations and the homes of repeat offenders of stolen vehicles.
She also says many vehicles are stolen from apartment complexes, so they're working with security guards and heavily relying on data to track thefts. Sydney Gray, Action News 5.
All right, so Chief Davis says that they're getting ready to expand their camera network, something she says she hopes will be helpful in all of this. The department's also planning to give away another 1,000 wheel locks, specifically for those who own a Kia or a Hyundai, being stolen at alarming rates, not only here but across the country. So MPD hasn't set a date for the next giveaway. We'll certainly keep you posted once that date has been released. All right, let's talk about gas prices. Went up by 10%, or 10 cents rather, over the last 3 weeks. National average of regular gas sitting at $3.37 a gallon. According to Bloomberg survey, the price at the pump didn't come from crude oil, but from multiple refineries having to close due to the extreme weather. Many plants are back up or returning to operation soon as we approach mid-January. Alcohol consulting company Bump Williams says beer prices, not including sales at bars and restaurants, jumped 7% during the last 13 weeks of 2022. The firm said prices of some popular beers, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, increased even higher than that by 10% during that time, and breweries have had to raise prices due to our raging inflation and the sky-high cost of shipping and other ingredients. Oscar Mayer now recruiting for the next class of drivers for its iconic Wienermobile. The drivers will be called hot doggers. They not only get to do a drive of the Wienermobile through 20 states, they also get to serve as an Oscar Mayer spokesperson at more than 200 events. Hot doggers will also document their journeys on social media. The company says they are looking for graduating college seniors who have an appetite for adventure. All right, speaking of adventure, realizing a dream, work-life balance, making a difference, or just doing something different, what you've always wanted, and making that career change over the age of 50. Well, that can be satisfying and terrifying at the same time. The average American worker changes jobs about 12 times in their lifetime, and the average age American change their careers is the age of 39. But it's never too late to switch. In fact, more people over 50 are deciding to take the plunge so they can live their best life. Watch this.
Welcome to the French Chef. I'm Julia Childs.
Julia Childs became a celebrity chef at 51. Charles Darwin published The Theory of Evolution at 50. The Colonel franchised when he was 62. And Arnold Schwarzenegger stepped away from acting to become governor at age 56. All of these people didn't realize their dream job until they turned 50.
Reality is that most of us will have several careers within a lifetime.
So what are the steps to changing your path after 50? First, perform a self-assessment. What do you want to do in your next career? Identify the requirements and be sure to acquire those skills. Rebrand your image. Learn the industry language and rewrite your resume and online profile to fit it. Be patient and be positive, and realize the ideal job may not be the highest paying financially.
The advantage might be that income is maybe less important than it was when we were younger and raising our children.
According to the ladders, those over 55 had a higher chance of being hired in career fields like business, finance, tech, and healthcare.
I don't think there's anything that 50-plus people need to do differently other than just not apologizing for looking at changing careers later in life.
65% of American workers are actively searching for a new full-time job right now. Factors to include in any job over the age of 50, your age, health, retirement plans, and qualifications. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. All right, don't look now, but your Memphis Grizzlies are on a 6-game winning streak after they beat the Jazz last night. The challenge was to do it without Ja Morant and Steven Adams. Ja was out with left thigh soreness. Steven Adams had a non-COVID illness. And regardless here, the Grizzlies won this one 123-118. First time they beat the Jazz this season. You see Desmond Bane there that just got that assist. Desmond had 24 points. Let's see, and Tyus Jones, the backup point guard, he had 21 points. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 19 points. The Grizzlies will try to make it 7 in a row tonight when they tip off against the Spurs.
Just sticking with it, having to make tough plays down the stretch, first on the defensive end, and then having to execute on offense. We knew they were going to play a full 48, and they're a tough, gritty team. Going to keep it going. Got to keep it going, keep the momentum up, keep doing what we've been doing. Don't relax. Don't relax. We know teams are going to be ready to play us, and just try to keep it going.
So tonight is the second half of a back-to-back. The Grizzlies will try to beat the Spurs tonight, 7 o'clock. And then on Wednesday, they also play the Spurs at 7 o'clock. Okay, so let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. Certainly an emotional game day for them yesterday. The team played their first game since safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest 1 week ago. So fans packed Highmark Stadium there at Erie County. As for the team, they started off with a bang. They scored on the very first play right here, as you can see, and they eventually beat the New England Patriots here 35-23. The playoffs begin, and the Bills will be hosting the Miami Dolphins for Sunday's matchup. All right, Graceland put on a huge ceremony to celebrate Elvis Presley's birthday over the weekend, and our Walter Murphy was there to capture it all.
Happy birthday! Hundreds of fans gathered at Graceland Sunday morning for
the love for Elvis Presley
and to celebrate what would have been the King of Rock and Roll's 88th birthday.
First time birthday, second time visitor.
Pat Davis drove down from Pittsburgh to sing happy birthday to Elvis. But the annual weekend-long celebration in honor of the King's birthday draws crowds from all over the world.
I'm from Ireland and my first time in Memphis. I'm celebrating my 50th birthday by coming to Memphis and spending time in Graceland with my husband and my daughter.
Lisa Marie Presley even made an appearance this year, taking time to greet her dad's party guests one by one, signing autographs and taking picture after picture.
I got a picture with Lisa Marie. Absolutely amazing. I can't
After the candles were blown out on the birthday cake fit for the king, fans traveled across the street from the mansion to take a look at Graceland's newest exhibit, all about the hit film Elvis. The Making of Elvis takes visitors on the film's journey from just an idea to the silver screen and everywhere in between. Alton Mason, who played Little Richard in the movie, met with a few of the first visitors to show up. Mason also took a nostalgic tour of the exhibit himself.
Yeah, and it's just taking me back. You know, being here feels very magical, so I'm thankful.
Even though Elvis Presley died over 45 years ago, the general consensus was
that the king was here. It's amazing to be here.
It was like bringing him back again to us, you know? Like a little bit more Elvis, you know?
In Memphis, Walter Murphy, Action News 5.
Adopt a kitten, get a free flight. No kidding. Frontier Airlines offering a free flight voucher to people who adopt one of 3 kittens from Las Vegas Animal Foundation. If an adopter steps up to take home Delta or Spirit, they get 2 vouchers worth $250, total of $500 per pet parent. Now, the person who adopts the kitten named Frontier gets 4 flight vouchers for a total of $1,000. The vouchers are good to use through the end of the year. The Las Vegas-based nonprofit says the 3 kittens arrived at its facility near the end of December, only a couple of weeks old. They'll be adoption ready once they hit 6 weeks old and weigh at least 1.5 pounds. Frontier says it's thrilled to offer the extra incentive to keep kittens, I should say, adopted. All right, 2022 is a wrap. That means tax time is right around the corner. But as you prepare for your return, the IRS warning of scams of people trying to steal your vital tax information. Consumer investigator Carice Jackman explains.
Tax season is fast approaching, and experts warn scammers are gearing up to steal your critical personal information.
There are millions of dollars every year that fall victim to these scams, and so it's a really huge problem.
Kimberly Palmer from NerdWallet says oftentimes victims are tricked into giving out their tax information.
And they reach out to taxpayers claiming that they urgently need their personal information, their financial information, because you owe taxes, fees, penalties. But of course, none of that is true.
Okay. The IRS says scammers trick people in many ways. Sometimes it comes in the form of a text with bogus links claiming to be from the IRS or other tax services. Another common phishing technique, a fraudulent email that appears to be from the IRS or a program closely linked to it.
Remember, the IRS will never contact you through social media, via text, or initiate contact with you via email.
The IRS says if you receive an unsolicited text, take a screenshot of it and include the screenshot in an email to phishing@irs.gov. Make sure you tell the IRS the date, time, and time zone you received the message and the phone number that received the text message. Remember, never click on links or open attachments from unsolicited, suspicious, or unexpected text messages.
Anytime anyone reaches out to you saying that they're from the government or from some official organization, just to verify.
Jacob Channel from Lending Tree says if you think you've been conned by scammers, reach out to your bank and the IRS as quickly as possible.
The longer you wait, the harder it'll be to get your money back.
With this watching your wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Okay, since NFL star Damar Hamlin's collapse last week, doctors say the 24-year-old has made a remarkable improvement, and he was watching from the hospital bed as his teammates paid tribute. Gloria Pizzino reports.
Hey, they always say don't play for the name on the back, you play for the name on the front. It's pretty special we play for that number on the front, too. All right, go get one done. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
The Buffalo Bills back on the field Sunday, honoring Damar Hamlin and the medical staff who helped save his life.
Please rise and show your support as only Bills Mafia can.
It has been a remarkable recovery for Hamlin, who collapsed Monday night after suffering cardiac arrest. Since the terrifying ordeal, Hamlin is now breathing on his own. Doctors say the player's neurological function is intact, but he remains in critical condition. On Friday, Hamlin surprised the team with a FaceTime call.
It was a little bit hard to hear, but he, as you'd imagine, he said, I love you, boys.
Sunday, Hamlin posted a heartfelt message on social media saying, "It's game day, and there is nothing I want more than to be running out that tunnel with my brothers." Bills quarterback Josh Allen, along with several other players, entered the stadium wearing shirts with the number 3 in a show of love and support for their teammate. Outside the Buffalo Bills Stadium in Orchard Park, a celebration where team rivalry gave way to the unifying power of sports.
No matter what team you're with, we love each other.
Yes, we do. We came together as a whole.
Yep.
And that's what mattered.
I'm Gloria Pasmino reporting.
I'm joined now by Dr. John Jeffries. He's professor of cardiology at UT Health Science Center. He also leads the new Methodist Institute for Cardiovascular Science. Dr. Jeffries, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here. What is cardiac arrest? A lot of people think it's a heart attack, but that's not necessarily the case. Can you explain it to us in layman's terms?
Sure. So, what happened here is that the heart stopped beating essentially, and that can be from a variety of different reasons. But what we probably saw here was not a classic heart attack, which is more of a blockage in the coronary arteries typically. This was likely more from a rhythm disturbance, which could have a variety of different mechanisms or causes. And I think those still need to be, worked out and disclosed by the healthcare providers there. But the important thing here is that CPR was initiated and a defibrillator was used to resuscitate him successfully, as you heard twice. This was required. And I think that's the big takeaway, is really people understanding the importance of CPR, the awareness of using defibrillators or what are called AEDs, which are available usually in public forums to help save people's lives. And that's really what happened here, is a rapid institution of CPR made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of those things is I saw the play. I was watching the game live, and when I saw the play, it looked like anything, a very routine tackle. Didn't look like anything super severe or super strong or super combative. It was just a routine tackle, and then he went into cardiac arrest. How do you explain that in medical terms of why something so routine had this devastating effect?
Yeah, we'll need more information to fully understand exactly, probably mechanistically, what was going on here. But we do know there are conditions where pressure to the chest wall, it's a condition called commotio cordis, can actually lead to unusual heart rhythms, which can be fatal. And so essentially this is the heart having a pressure applied to it, and which could happen in football or any other sport actually. And it essentially disrupts the normal heart rhythm. So if it's timed perfectly on the way that the heart rhythm tracing is occurring, it can induce a thing called ventricular fibrillation, which is essentially the heart not beating. It's fibrillating or squeezing at a really rapid pace, but means there's no real blood flow going out to the body. And that's where the use of a thing like a defibrillator would be very helpful. And then during that time period between when that fibrillation occurs and when you can apply the defibrillator is when CPR is hugely important and is an essential to a successful resuscitation and restoration of normal circulation. So it's hard to know exactly for sure what happened because we just don't have enough information, but that's absolutely a possibility. There are other types of heart diseases that could lead to something like this. There's a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy that sometimes we see in athletes. And that's information that can be obtained, through imaging of the heart, like an ultrasound or an echocardiogram. So all of that information will still need to come to us, but this idea of this hit to the chest that can induce a bad heart rhythm has been a known entity for many years. And we do see it more commonly in younger athletes and young males. Interestingly, similar, in the sex predilection here we see in a male, but it's usually around 15 years of age or so. But it can occur in other ages, and it can occur in other sports. So I think the awareness of this is hugely important, and understanding that things do occur in sports that can be unanticipated. As you've heard from many of the NFL players, they're used to seeing joint injuries and orthopedic injuries, but something like cardiac is not as common, but obviously hugely impactful. And what can we do to help when these things do occur to be best prepared? And I think that's where CPR and having availability of defibrillators is hugely important.
Yeah, we've many stories about the need and the necessity to have AEDs in various public areas. I know the church that I attend, we have a couple of AEDs set up in different areas where people congregate, the need for it. I'm curious, though, here is a 24-year-old in top peak physical condition, and he has this cardiac arrest, and I've heard the term that you mentioned, commotio cordis, but I understand it is extremely rare. And forgive me for saying this, but I'm a huge football fan. I've never seen anything like this happen, ever, where a game is stopped because someone's heart is stopped on the field during the play. So I'm just curious, like, I mean, if we're listing some of the reasons why this happened, and again, we don't know because we don't have all the information, but how, I mean, where does that list, start with the most probable sense, and where do we go from there?
Yeah, I think, based on, as you said, we don't have all the information. Based on what we know, this probably was a primary cardiac issue. So when people have an arrest, it can be from different things. It's not just your heart always. Sometimes it could be a lung issue or other things that are more systemic from the pathophysiologic perspective. But based on what we're seeing, the abruptness, the need for a defibrillator would typically indicate this is probably cardiac in origin. And then you start thinking about, as you said, young guy, healthy, obviously very fit person. What are the things that could happen? We do know there could have been underlying circumstances that were there. As I said, maybe a cardiomyopathy or something. Be very atypical for those sorts of things to be there because of the screening processes that these players go through. But they can have very subtle changes sometimes that aren't always detected. So that is a possibility. But I think the more likelihood, based on what we saw on video and knowing that this can occur in young athletes, that the commotio cordis may be the most likely possibility. As I said, to have more information would give us a lot more opportunity to best understand and to tag what the cause was. But this is a hard thing to understand. If you think about it, someone playing football, they don't have a heart monitor on when they're playing typically. So the idea of being able to look at the heart rhythm at the time of the impact and then subsequent to that is not available to us. So the only time we're going to have any heart rhythm data is when they put that defibrillator on and we were actually able to see what the rhythm looked like. So the time from the actual impact until the time of the defibrillator is sort of going to be an unknown from a rhythm perspective. So to say definitively that's exactly what happened, part of this is really going to always be a little bit of an unknown consideration because we just don't have the data to accurately document exactly what happened. But I think based on, a young, healthy person, it does make it a likely possibility that commotio cordis was what happened here. I'm sure that extensive testing has been done at the University of Cincinnati, excellent healthcare system. I'm sure they're doing everything to best define exactly if there was any underlying cardiovascular pathophysiology that was there prior maybe. And then more importantly, what do we do moving forward to keep him safe, right? So get him through this to the best of their ability. And then how do we protect him long term? And part of that's really understanding about what happened. So that'll be through extensive testing and other things. But once again, let's say it was commotio cordis, let's say it was cardiomyopathy, like a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The sudden death phenomenon is a common pathway for all of those diagnoses. And that's where really coming back to not necessarily knowing exactly what he had, but we know what the end result was. And that was a cardiac arrest, is knowing what we need to do. And that really is back to rapid response. For bystander CPR, unfortunately, occurs in less than half of the cases that occur in the United States. And this is cardiac arrest is a common phenomenon, not in this age group, obviously, but about 350,000 cardiac arrests occur each year. So understanding if that's in a public forum, it's important for people to get involved and to initiate 911, to initiate CPR, to look around for the AED, as you were alluding to at your church. All those things are hugely important because that's ultimately what was able to gain back circulatory sort of flow in this young man and able to get him to the hospital where he could get adequate care. So, this is such a bad situation. And I think it really comes back to increasing awareness is that cardiovascular disease kills more people in the United States than anything else. And what can we do to help mitigate that? How can we improve outcomes? And CPR and defibrillators are absolutely a vehicle to do that.
Let me ask you about markers here, because a lot of people are wondering what kind of preventative steps could have stopped this event before happening. I mean, a lot of people are just wondering, would there have been tests to give, just kind of an alert or something that says, hey, there's an issue here and it needs to be addressed immediately?
It's a great question. I think these players, obviously high school, college, professional athletes go through screenings and physical exams, and so extensive testing is done. So, that's having the sort of pre-existing heart disease comes as a lesser likely possibility here. If it really was commotio cordis, and as I said, that's really a hard thing to diagnose in a retrospective sort of fashion, but based on the information that we have, if that's really what was going on, there really aren't any preventive strategies that can occur. Even people that wear chest protectors, and so this is seen in other sports, as I said, things like soccer and whatnot. People that wear chest protectors, that still doesn't always protect you from a cardiac arrest secondary to commotio cordis. So this was really just a bad timing event, and it is exceedingly rare. If you think about, we're talking about a very exact hit during the cardiac cycle when the heart rhythm is going. It has to be very precise, and it has to be in a certain spot, typically on the chest. So for that to occur is very, very rare. But once again, I don't think there's anything that we could have done preemptively if that were the cause here to avoid this. It's one of those things that it may happen in any situation, and you have to be prepared to deal with the consequence of commotio cordis, right, and that ventricular fibrillation. And that's where learning CPR and having access to defibrillators is very important. And remember, this is a very rare phenomenon. Things like heart attacks are very common, right? And we see that very commonly in the Mid-South. And it's going to be the same application: 911, CPR, defibrillator if appropriate, right? And I think those are all of the things that really bring us back to the importance of people just understanding how to react in these situations. Watching it at home, I've seen this in real life, real time at sports events, and it's surreal. It's so unusual, and people are looking around. Someone falls to the ground unexpectedly, and you really don't know what to think initially. It's like, wow, I wonder what's going on. Did he pass out? Did he hurt his leg? Something, and it's almost like time freezes a little bit. And you have to be aware of what's going on and really institute the appropriate measures, because about 90% of people that experience an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, which is what happened here, do not make it. And that is absolutely tragic. And what can we do to make a difference in that situation? So I think there'll always be people looking back at these situations, and appropriately so, to say, is there anything else that we could have done? But I don't think, if this was really commotio cordis, that there was probably anything preemptively that could have been done. It's really about the reaction to what happened. And the teams there really did a great job at stepping onto the field, knowing what was going on and intervening quickly. But I think it just comes back to doing appropriate screenings if you're going to play sports, right? If your family are going to play sports, make sure you go through the right steps to do as much as you can to ensure safety. And then during sports, things happen. And as we said, oftentimes that's more of an orthopedic sort of a thing, or maybe head trauma and whatnot, but cardiac is still a part of the consideration. And making sure that we're prepared to deal with that, I think, has to be an important step for us moving forward as a community.
Sure. So, Dr. Jeffries, one final question. He had to be revived 2 different times on the field there. What does that tell you about the severity of what happened, and why was that the case?
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly about what was going on, without looking at the data. But this rhythm we're talking about, ventricular fibrillation, is a very unstable heart rhythm, and so it can come and go. And you have to remember, they were resuscitating him And during that time period, there's no real, there's very limited circulation to the body, right, except for what we're accomplishing with CPR. And when you resuscitate someone, the heart starts getting oxygen again, and sometimes it can still be a little bit irritable, right? And that's probably what happened here, is that he was shocked, hopefully returned into a thing called sinus rhythm, but then the heart is still in a very unstable situation. It's very irritated, and for whatever reason, it can flip back into these unstable heart rhythms, something like ventricular fibrillation. And if that happened, remember, that's essentially no blood flow to the body. And so you have to reinstitute the CPR, and then you want to shock again, because that would be an appropriate rhythm to defibrillate. And that's probably what happened, is that had an unusual heart rhythm or a pathologic heart rhythm like ventricular fibrillation, shock, probably got back into some sort of a relatively stable heart rhythm. Heart was still irritable, went back into an unstable heart rhythm, something like a ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation, which required a second defibrillation. But those are the appropriate things to do, and that's exactly what these devices do, is that they help understand what the heart rhythm is, if it's appropriate to shock for that heart rhythm, because remember, we don't want to shock all the time. Some heart rhythms actually don't respond well to being shocked. And then they deliver the shock, and then they'll tell you if the appropriate heart rhythm has been restored, or maybe you need to shock again. And so the team there did a tremendous job, and now it's just a waiting game. We hope that during the resuscitation the perfusion was good, and that hopefully all of his end organ function and all those things are going to be good walking out of this situation. But that's one of those things that time will tell ultimately. But I think, once again, encourage everyone to learn about CPR. The American Heart Association has mechanisms to do that, and please do that, because this could happen anywhere, anytime. Be clear, this is not just something that's unique to the NFL.
Sure. Why don't we end with that, Doctor? Can you give us maybe a place someone could go if they're watching this where they can sign up and learn CPR?
Absolutely. So the American Heart Association has, you can go on the web. It's heart.org/CPR. There are other mechanisms to learn CPR, as you were alluding to. Your church, or your community outreach oftentimes will do CPR. But I would just encourage everyone, and if you need help, please reach out to the American Heart Association. They can absolutely facilitate that. It's an easy skill to learn. And it saves lives. It's just that simple. It saves lives. And I hope we can teach not only our adult community, but our young people in the community as well, because they're going to be at these sporting events too, to learn the basics of CPR, because it really is a game changer, and it saved this young man's life.
No question about it. Dr. John Jeffries, appreciate you, UT Health Science Center, and you lead the new Methodist Institute for Cardiovascular Science. We appreciate the deep dive into this topic about what happened at Monday Night Football and ways to really get the word out and help others with AEDs and CPR training. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, the sky-high inflation is affecting everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're going to the grocery store, you're filling up gas, you're trying to go on vacation with your family, see loved ones. It affects everyone in nearly every facet of our society. So we know how it affects us, but why are we seeing record inflation? Let's bring in now Al Lord. He's an expert when it comes to real estate, investing, and inflation, also supply chain issues related to construction materials. Al, why are we seeing such sky-high record inflation right now?
Well, it's the stimulus. It's $5 trillion of government stimulus we had, and then it's the easy conditions that the Federal Reserve put in place to get us through the COVID issues. And so while the response was necessary and needed at the time, the $5 trillion of stimulus that the federal government threw out there, and then the Federal Reserve buying $1.5 trillion of assets each year, is now the reason why we've gotten to this point. And so Unfortunately, there was a price to pay for all that free money, and we're paying it now.
So how do we fix this? I mean, this is terrible. I mean, everyone doesn't like it. It's an awful economic situation. What's the best way to fix this in the most immediate way, I guess?
Well, unfortunately, we are in the hands of the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve has admitted they got it wrong. They were way too slow to act. And then when they saw it, they said it was temporary. And now we're left to them hiking rates here. And so they've reacted slowly. They're behind the curve. And now we need them to raise rates and to sell some of their portfolio to ease the build-up pressures here. And the downside is that's probably going to cause a recession. And so there's nothing that individuals can do. It's really the government and the Federal Reserve that have to fix this and fix it in a hurry, because it is painful.
Let's talk about it. You just mentioned recession. Are we in a recession? Do you think that we are entering one, or are we in one now?
I think we're entering one. I think there's still, it's a very strange time for the economy. There's certainly still demand. We still have supply chain issues. So there's a backup of certain goods, and yet we have very high prices. And so the inflation keeps driving prices higher. That in turn generates increased inflation expectations. And so it's hard to get out of that cycle. But things are starting to slow down. And they will slow down. They have to slow down. The Federal Reserve has to raise rates to slow it down, because otherwise inflation gets way out of control. And that's the unfortunate part of where we are. But it's coming. The recession is coming, and everyone has to prepare for it.
Absolutely. How does our inflation compare with the rest of the world?
It's worse. The rest of the world is still having some of the same issues. And one part of this demand is for workers, and that's the good part of this economy. Is there are plenty of jobs. There's plenty of work out there for people that want to work, and the unemployment rate is low, and we have 1.9 job openings to every person seeking a job. So that's twice as high as where the Federal Reserve would like it. And other countries are going through some of the same issues, because some of the workforce has not come back since COVID, and whether that's fear of health issues, or it's simply the fact that a lot of stimulus was thrown out there. People still have a lot of money left in their checkbook, so that they don't need to work, but we don't have enough workers to get the work done that we need, that the economy needs for it to get done. And that's another issue that unfortunately a recession will solve, because a recession will put more people out of work, and that supply demand will come more in balance.
What are ways regular people can protect themselves against inflation? I know that we've done several stories about people who are about to retire or are retired, and they're concerned about their dollar going farther. But what can people do right now, just average Joes, to protect themselves?
Well, it's hard. It's very hard, because with rising prices, that takes more and more of your paycheck. And on one hand, wages are rising in part because of inflation, and that's a good thing. Unfortunately, wages aren't rising at the same level as inflation. And so workers are getting less bang for their buck each and every paycheck here because of inflation. And so the answer, unfortunately, is to cut expenses. And that's hard to do when gas prices keep going up, rent keeps going up, food prices keep going up. But that's really the only thing you can do, is hunker down and figure out a way to avoid some of these high prices by cutting back on consumption.
Al, this has been informative, and I can understand. Yeah, I mean, you gotta tighten that budget, tighten the belt a little bit. Anything else you want to mention about this? Because certainly the inflation and the sky high numbers on everything is affecting us all. Is it going to get worse before it gets better?
I think it is. I mean, some people in the market think it's peaked. Maybe it's peaked, maybe it hasn't. Maybe we have another month or two before it starts coming back down, but it's still way too high. And I think that inflation is going to stay higher than what the market or the Federal Reserve expects for longer. And so I think it will take longer to achieve lower inflation here. And one of the biggest components, that 1/3 of the CPI report, the Consumer Price Index, is rent. And rent has been lagging in this index, and rent was up 5% in the last reading, while the headline number was up 9%. And rent includes rent that you pay your landlord, but it's also the owner equivalent rent of if you own a home and what your equivalent rent is. And that number is going to keep going higher because we have a shortage of housing. We have a shortage of apartments. We have a shortage of single family homes. And this slowdown and this COVID period and the supply chain issues have decreased construction levels, and it's going to slow the delivery of new units. And so that housing shortage, that housing crisis is going to get worse. And that's why you've seen housing prices go up 20% year over year over the last 2 years. And now the housing price increase is slowing to around 13 to 15%, but it's still very high. And there's still a shortage of homes. And so that will get better also, but it's still going to remain high and painful for a lot of people.
Al, anything else we can touch on before we let you go?
Well, I could talk for hours, depending on how much airtime you have.
Yeah,
that's all I can think of for now.
I got you. Al Lord, founder and CEO of Lexford Capital. Listen, I appreciate it. Hopefully next time when we talk, we can have a little bit of a more positive, upbeat discussion, because right now it's
I sure hope so.
It's looking pretty rough. But listen, I appreciate the insight. Thanks very much.
Great to be with you.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. A lot of you starting off a new year, and one thing that I think is a pretty interesting topic that is very important to talk about is the importance of having a primary care physician. So I want to bring in now nurse practitioner Tondra Armour with Methodist Medical Group. Tondra, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on this morning to talk to you a little bit more about this. I will tell you, I am one of those people that's guilty that over several years, it seemed like when I needed to go to the doctor, I would just go to an urgent care. I would see just one doctor. Next time I'd go, I see a different doctor. And it wasn't until I moved back here to Memphis that I finally established a primary care physician. Can we talk about why it's so important to be able to have that doctor in your corner?
Yes, so having a primary care physician is important because we provide basic health care from mind to body, and we also help to make sure that we take care of we like to offer preventative services. We do quite a few things to care for our patients, but basically it's that general health and making sure we're staying on top of the things that's necessary and trying to capture anything before it even happens or catch it early.
And how important is it to have that doctor that you're seeing consistently? Because, I mean, obviously, they know more about your history. They know what you've been through. Talk about maybe being able to establish that primary care physician and just why it's so important to have a primary care physician working with your health.
Yes. So yes, we recommend that you see a primary care physician at least once a year to get your physical or your annual exam. During that exam, that's when we check for any type of, we do lab work to make sure we're catching any type of illnesses or to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. General things like checking your kidney function, liver function. We may do STD checks if you're looking for that and wanting to know your status on that. We can offer x-rays and EKGs in certain places so that we're looking at your heart and your lungs. We do your screening at that particular time. So are you up to date with your mammogram? Are you up to date with your pap smear? Are you up to date with your prostate levels? We can screen for diabetes. So it's very important to know your status and to know your baseline and go from there. And then if you do have chronic diseases such as hypertension or diabetes or high cholesterol, it's very important that you're meeting with your primary care physician or provider, because we also follow that too. We want to make sure that you're taking your medications the way they need to be, make sure the medications are working like they need to be. And if you need to go to a specialist, we can even navigate that and make sure we direct you to the right specialist. And we also interact with the specialist to make sure we know what's going on with the specialist and the specialist knows what's going on with us as well.
So important. And like you said, that preventative care, if you don't know there's something going on, then how do you treat that before it gets worse? So obviously so important to be able to get ahead of something before it turns into something even worse, where you're dealing with something even more serious. Can you maybe give some advice for someone that's maybe watching today? They're saying, you know, I don't have a primary care physician. I've just kind of hopped around from urgent cares. Is there any advice that you would give when it comes to maybe trying to find the right one for you?
Yes, so oftentimes we get a lot of our patients by referrals as family members that say, hey, I love my doctor, I love who I go to, and they often tell their friends and family about the provider that they're seeing. You can also check with your insurance company to see what providers are in your network and see who may be close to you or in your area. You can also just call and see who's in that area. Methodist has a website, and you can go on our website and look at all the primary care providers. We have about 60 locations in the Mid-South. And so you can go on the Methodist website and you can look at all the different providers that we have and all the different locations, and you can see what's the best fit for you. But I definitely recommend that you ask your family and friends, who do they have as a provider? Do they trust their provider? Are they able to get appointments with their providers? How does the provider provide excellent care for them? So it's definitely important to have someone who has been to that provider, that knows they're a great provider. But like I said, if you haven't been to a primary care doctor and you're looking for one, go on the website for Methodist and you can check and see where the providers are. You can call your insurance companies and ask about providers that are in your network, because that's important as well.
Absolutely. And you were saying asking family members and friends. That's actually how I ended up at my primary care physician. My dad had started seeing this doctor, then my mom, and now me. So, and of course, we've been happy with that. So it's good to be able to talk to your friends and family, because they can let you know what they've experienced going to that doctor. You know, this is a new year, though. We're into 2023. A lot of people making those resolutions, many of those focusing on health, the new year, the new you, and health is usually one of those main focuses for a lot of people. So when is the right time for someone to schedule an appointment with a primary care physician? Is it right now at the beginning of the year?
Yes, get in there and see your primary care doctor. If you haven't seen a doctor at all, haven't had a physical or annual exam, I definitely recommend that you get started with your physical annual exam to get established with that doctor, so you know your baseline for the year. You know what you're dealing with, and you know what your goal is, or what your goal is, so you know what you need to work towards. So it's very important to get in as soon as possible. If you've already have a doctor that's established and you've already had annual exam, we recommend you do that once a year, about the same time every year, depending on your insurance. So definitely, if you can get in there ASAP, get in there as soon as you can to get your physical and get your annual exam, so you know your baseline.
All right, Tondra, we talked about a lot of things. Anything you think we missed on that you want to make sure we get out there to the people?
Well, once again, I want to tell people that your primary care doctor offers a lot of different things. We want to make sure that you're up to date on your vaccinations. So this starts in childhood. It doesn't just start in adulthood. So you can get a pediatrician that's considered a primary care doctor for children, and they look at your vaccinations to make sure you're up to date on that. In adulthood, you can transfer or you upgrade from a pediatrician to your primary care doctor. And once again, we're looking at vaccinations. Are you up to date on your flu vaccine? Are you up to date with shingles vaccine, pneumonia vaccine? If you have any chronic conditions, we want to know, are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking your medications like you're supposed to? Are the medications working for you? And if you have any screenings that needs to be done, because primary prevention is most important. So if we can prevent you from becoming a diabetic or prevent you from going into full-blown hypertension, we want to do that. So see us sooner than later, so that we can prevent any type of diseases as much as possible. But if not, just so we can do a general check, just like you go and you get your car checked out, we do the same for our patients. So make an appointment soon and come see us.
All right. Well, Tondra Armour, nurse practitioner for Methodist Medical Group, we appreciate your time. So much information just packed with it. And you have a great one, all right?
Thank you. You have a blessed day, too.
Good morning. We're starting off our day with some sunshine. A look at here in Midtown Memphis, but we'll end up with clouds rolling in here a little bit later today. Now it'll be gradual, partly cloudy by noon. We'll end up at 49 by then, 56 degrees at 3 o'clock, but mostly cloudy at 3 today. It won't be dark and cloudy. You'll still have some sunshine in between those, but just giving you a heads up, you'll notice more later. 52 degrees at 5, and then we're down to 47 at 7 o'clock tonight. Partly cloudy this evening and not as cold as what we had last night. Last night, most of us were around that freezing mark of 32 degrees. Tonight in Memphis, around 40, 37 in Somerville, 36 in Brownsville. We're at 36 in Bolivar tonight. Mid to upper 30s across North Mississippi, 38 in Clarksdale, right around 37 in Holly Springs, and then upper 30s from Forest City into Helena, and 39 in Marion tonight. High temperatures tomorrow, though, back up into the 60s, and then upper 60s to near 70 on Wednesday, lower 30s on Thursday. But check out that drop in between Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back down to the 40s. Look at that. That'll be because of a cold front moving through. And that front, you guessed it, will also bring us our next chance for rain. A first alert to some showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Most of those will be in the morning into early afternoon. Let's check out first alert futurecast. So as we go past midnight, rain starts moving in. So overnight Wednesday into Thursday, some showers begin from Blytheville into Jonesboro. Rain moves through Memphis probably around 7 a.m. Some of the heaviest rain will be in northeast Mississippi between 11 and noon. Oxford, Ripley, Corinth, and Selmer could have some rumbles of thunder, even some small hail with this, but then it's out of here as we get through the afternoon. So by 3 o'clock we dry out, and we'll even see some clouds moving out that evening. Rainfall totals about a quarter to a half inch, so it'll be a pretty good soaking for us on Thursday morning and early afternoon, but not enough rain to where I think we'll see any flash flooding or anything like that. And again, severe chances low with this. Over the weekend, we keep it dry and sunny, but again, it will be colder behind that front. Temperatures in the upper 40s on Saturday. We'll have some cold nights. Saturday night into early Sunday morning, we're down into the 30s, and then 55 is the high on Sunday. You can always get your forecast on our First Alert weather app, including that weekend forecast if you want to see that again. And we just posted an update detailing the timing for that Thursday rain if you want to check that out again too. It's 56 degrees today, 40 tonight, 61 on Tuesday. We're in the upper 60s on Wednesday, lower 60s Thursday, and then temperatures in the 40s Friday, Saturday, back up to 55 on Sunday.
Did you know that 64% of Americans typically abandon their New Year's resolution within the first month? That doesn't surprise me at all. And you know what's at the top of the list typically? It has to deal with getting in shape, and it also has to deal with your financial shape. You got to get in your financial shape. And so many people just abandon this after that first month. Well, it's time to get back on track when it comes to your finances. And here to help us out is the founder of the Fiscal Femme. We are joined now by Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley. Thank you for joining us, Ashley. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, I appreciate it. So let's talk about the number one tip to getting our budgets back on track. It is February, it's mid-February. Maybe some people have lost track of their New Year's resolutions. How do we get it back on track, Ashley?
My number one tip is to purge expenses that you won't miss or aren't using. And to clean up the finances, look at what you spent so far this year. Are there subscriptions that you aren't using or completely forgot about? Or maybe there are expenses that aren't adding much value or happiness to your life. We want to let go of those expenses first.
Always good advice. I mean, it's like we have to pay off all of our bills from the holiday season, and it's like, we need a way to get back on track. There are a lot of tools out there to make sure that we're spending properly, that our spending is in order. Are there any that you would recommend, Ashley?
Just like you said with the holidays, sometimes we need some time to pay things off. So we want to make our finances flexible. I've partnered with a firm and I recommend them because they offer a transparent way to pay over time on your own schedule on anything from last minute travel expenses, home essentials, electronics, and even car repair without the hidden fees or compound interest that you might find with credit cards.
Good advice there. And, I've heard this before that people like a high credit score. In fact, they find it sexy if your finances are in order. And we saw this in a new survey out that financial stability is sexy. Tell me more.
Yes, if you needed one more reason to stick with your money resolutions, financial stability is sexy. A recent survey from a firm showed that consumers are prioritizing finances in their relationship. And actually the majority, 3 out of 4, say that financial stability is a turn on. So if you are looking for love or looking to rekindle some love, you want to get that budget in order. And a great way to do that is to surround yourself by friends, family, loved ones who will help you and support you in your money goals.
You know, I remember hearing something a few years ago when there was, you know, Match.com and all these online dating apps. They talked about, well, what is your credit score? And I thought that was kind of funny and foolish, but in actuality, there's a lot of truth to that. You know, what is your financial stability? That's interesting how it is. What about any other final advice that we haven't hit on yet?
We want to simplify, simplify, simplify. So the easier it is to keep our finances in order, the easier it is to stay on track. And a great place to start is with our accounts. Do you have extra savings accounts, checking accounts, or have you been meaning to roll over a company 401k? We want to consolidate and simplify. And we can also do that with our budget. So the fewer categories we have, the easier it is to track and maintain. And we can always add details later. And another final tip is to make our spending intentional. Every time we spend money, we have the opportunity to vote for more of the world we want to see and to align our spending with our values. And that might mean switch a recurring expense over to a BIPOC or woman-owned business, or to purchase goods from a company working to be more sustainable. And often when our spending is more intentional, it has the wonderful side effect of actually reducing the amount we spend.
I like that. I like all of that. Now, for more information on where people can go to get more of what we talked about, where can they do that?
Yes, they can learn more about Affirm at affirm.com and can follow along my budgeting tips at The Fiscal Femme.
Okay, Ashley Feinstein Gerstley, the Fiscal Femme founder. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much for having me.
Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to show you this. This is the latest cover of the Memphis Magazine January edition there. Look at that pretty color. And vibrant there. The wedding album, Memphis Marriages in Photos. Good stuff there. Let's talk more about what's inside this edition with Chris McCoy, a writer with Memphis Magazine and the Memphis Flyer. Chris, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Happy New Year. I'm doing fine. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you very much. Read the article that you wrote here, this one, about your little trip to the Gulf. You got the best job here doing all these trips all over the place. And wow, the Gulf Coast didn't disappoint, huh?
No, I can't complain. But so a few years ago, back in 2020, before the pandemic, my wife often goes with me on these trips as a photographer, and she has been doing it for years. I've been doing travel writing since, 2006, 2000-ish or so. And so a lot of times she'll go and take pictures. And in early 2020, we were supposed to go to the Gulf Coast for a travel story, and her other job, she couldn't go. She couldn't go to that one because her other job, which is a video and film editor, she had a gig pop up, so she couldn't go. So then the pandemic happens, and we're stuck in the house for 2 years, and we don't get to travel. And the whole time we were like, man, I wish you could have gone on that trip, because right before the pandemic, I wish you could have gone. So the opportunity arose again, and this time the stars aligned, and she was able to go on this trip. And we stayed at the Henderson. We stayed at the Henderson Park Inn in Destin, and it's right next to the Henderson State Park. And Travel and Leisure voted it the most romantic hotel in America, I think back in 2017 or 2018. And so I was like, well, since we're going to do the weddings for our cover story, which made a beautiful cover, let's talk a little bit about how to make a romantic trip between a couple. This seemed like a good use of our time. So that's what we did. We tried to go and check out a lot of stuff at the beach in Destin and on the Gulf Coast. I tried to figure out if it was romantic or not, if it was a good thing to do with your partner. And in order to do this, we had to figure out what that meant when we said romantic, right? So that's why I called the story A Theory of Romance. We had to figure out what romantic was before we figured out if something was romantic or not. We had to get our definition down. So some of the story is about us trying to figure out, what does romantic mean, really? And the way the story came together is me proposing things and my wife's name is Laura Jean Hawking, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. For Laura Jean for us to do together. And then she would be like, is that romantic or not? And then she would decide, what it was. But I'll tell you, staying at the Henderson, at the Park Inn, there's the Henderson Park Inn, which is a small B&B on the beach. And then there is the Henderson Resort, which is a 110-room high rise that's on the same property, but it's set back from the beach. And it also has like a 10,000 square foot spa and stuff, 2 pools, 3 restaurants. It's the full resort experience. So you get to use some of that if you stay in the Henderson. So, we did a couple spa thing there, which we've decided was extremely romantic. When we arrived at the Henderson, they had love spelled out in rose petals on the bed, which we also decided was extremely romantic, and for obvious reasons. But it turned into a really great trip. And the definition of romance that we ended up with, the theory of romance that we ended up with, was it needs to be an activity that allows you to be present with your partner. It allows you to shut out the world and just be there with the person that you love and concentrate on. That's why, for example, miniature golf turned out to be really romantic because we were able to just concentrate on each other and have a good time. So anyways, I think the story ended up being really fun. And, I'm really happy that we did it. And I hope that it helps some folks, go and have a romantic trip and improve their relationships.
I love your explanation about it, Chris. That was spot on, and we don't want to give too much of it away because we want people to pick up the magazine and look through it. And in addition to your writing, Chris, some great pictures that I guess your wife took, Laura took along the way that really kind of makes everything come to life in that article. So nice, and I really enjoyed it. What about the local wedding photographs here? Because we see the cover right here, which is a beautiful cover. Lots of colors, and then the article about various local weddings. Tell me more about this.
Well, we went around to all the wedding photographers that we could find and we could think of who might have some good stuff, and we started from there. We were like, show us some of your best pics, your best images that you think would be good for the magazine, that would be publishable. And then, we worked outwards from there. And it turns out there's a lot of good photographers in this city, which is something that really working for Memphis Magazine has shown me. But, a lot of them, that's what they do, to make ends meet. They go and photograph weddings. So you can have some really great talent, shooting you on the most important day of your life, and it helps out a lot of photographers who are artists in their other lives. But they do fantastic work, and I think they just did a great job sourcing all these photographs and finding the right ones. But I do believe the one thing that story shows is that if you're going to get married in Memphis and you need a photographer, you're in good hands because we got some good folks here.
Absolutely, totally agree here, and again, this is all on the cover of the first issue of the year for Memphis Magazine. There, you can see the wedding album, Memphis Marriages in photos there. Again, the January edition of Memphis Magazine. Before we let you go, Chris, anything else you want to mention?
Hey, thank you for having me, and Happy New Year. We got some good stuff for the magazine coming up in the new year. I mentioned photography, and our February issue focuses on photographers. So So, once you've devoured the January issue, that's what you have to look forward to.
Well, I look forward to it. I can't wait to get it in the mail, my January edition. Look forward to each and every time it comes in the mail. Chris McCoy, we appreciate you spending time with us each and every time you do. Thanks for all the hard work. Much success to you in 2023. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Same to you.
How are your New Year's resolutions? The top two typically are health and exercise and money. And usually by mid-February, we've scrapped it long ago. But if you're still with those New Year's resolutions to better your health, well, this next segment is for you, because we're talking about gut health and how important it is to your overall body. I'm joined right now by Tara Carr. She is a registered dietitian and a gut health expert. Tara, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Talk about gut health for us and how it is so important to our overall health.
Of course. So our gut health is so important for our overall health. What many people don't realize is that so much of our health, whether it be inflammation, how you're actually feeling after you eat, maybe even certain diseases, it all ties back to the gut. So it's not so much you are what you eat, but I think about it is what you feed those microbes in your gut that really can impact your health.
How do we know if we have poor gut health?
That's a great question. So maybe if you're eating foods and you don't feel like you're digesting them well, that could be a sign that there's dysbiosis or maybe not so much of a balance in your gut. Some people do experience things like maybe gas, bloating, those not so fun symptoms. And then other people might have things just like generally tired, right? You just feel like something's off. If you do not feel healthy, or you just, you're trying everything, but you're not so sure what's going on, I certainly suggest getting to the root cause. And often that comes from the gut health. So taking a look at your microbiome is a great thing to do.
Okay, so, for our viewers right now, they might be thinking in their head, okay, I think I may have a problem here. How do we improve our gut health?
Wonderful question. So I am a dietitian. There are some strategies that you can do through foods that you eat, and maybe foods that you don't want to eat. So there might be some foods that are contributing to poor gut health. Some of the top three that might be artificial sweeteners. Those are tied to maybe not so much a healthy gut. Alcoholic beverages, unfortunately, as well. And then those ultra processed foods. All three of those, not so much supporting a healthy gut. But the good news is there are great foods for our gut. And so if you can think mostly plant-based foods, those are all really high in fiber. So more fruits, more vegetables, more whole grains. By increasing those on your plate, you're going to up your fiber content, and that's what those healthy microbes in your gut really need to thrive. So that's what I would suggest as a good starting point, at least.
Okay, all right, I got you. I'm following you so far. What about tests out there that maybe someone could take? Because you see a lot of them out there about ways to test your gut health to see where you are.
Of course. So there are actually a few on the market. Just a quick Google search would get you to microbiome tests. It's not the cutest test, actually. You do have to send off a stool sample. People analyze it for you, and they will tell you what's in your gut. So more and more research needs to be done on this, but that is an option. If you are interested, talk with your physician, or you could do some looking online if you really want to see what microbes, good bacteria, probiotics are in your gut. That's one way to do it, of course.
I was just thinking about asking you a question regarding supplements. You just mentioned probiotics. Are there supplements that you can take today that may help your gut health overall?
Yes, so probiotics is an amazing thing that you can do for your health. Of course, as a dietitian, try that food. I think that's important regardless if you're going to take a probiotic or not. But there are some probiotics that are generally, most people want them in their guts. So for whatever reason, we age, right? We travel, we maybe don't eat in the ideal way all the time. Some of those beneficial bacteria, they leave the gut. And unfortunately, some of them aren't found in food. So the only way to get them back in is through probiotics. one of the newest ones that's got over like 1,000 research studies done recently is called Akkermansia. And that one actually can only be found at Pendulum Therapeutics. So that's a really great gut support probiotic strain that I like to recommend for people to try. It's a long name, but Akkermansia muciniphila. That's one of the ones that I really suggest for people to think about. Is it in your gut? Do you want to add it to your regimen?
You know, I see a lot of probiotics out there on the market, and there are some that need to be refrigerated. My thought process was if it needs to be refrigerated, it's a good thing because otherwise that bacteria dies, or the good bacteria you want in your gut. Is that right?
Okay, so this can be kind of confusing, and basically you and I, think about your thermostat. You have a preferred temperature. It might be different than my preferred temperature, right? So same with these bugs in our gut. Some of them actually do need to be refrigerated because that will help them live longer. And some are actually more stable at room temperature, just depending on how they're manufactured. So my best suggestion is find a company you can trust. And then ask your dietitian, ask your pharmacist, say, do you think this is an appropriate probiotic for me? Do we need to refrigerate this one or not? And of course, if you have a dietitian at your fingertips, we're always happy to be the expert there as well.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about probiotic foods out there, because some people are just like, maybe I should just start eating some foods that have those probiotics, because sometimes you see that on the label.
Right. So probiotic foods, probably the most popular that you probably have in your fridge right now. Yogurt is a very common probiotic food. So there's actually trillions of different bacterial strains, but that one in yogurt is lactobacillus. So that could be a great way to increase your probiotics through foods. Anything fermented. So I have green olives in my fridge. I love to cook with things that are pickled. Even some cheeses have probiotics in them. So I love to encourage everybody for your gut health, include those probiotic foods. It can be a great thing to increase that diversity in your gut.
Right, sauerkraut, kombucha, of course I hear all those things for probiotics, that sort of thing. All right, so let's say someone is there and they say, all right, I'm approving it today. I'm going to get the probiotics. I'm going to change how much I eat, what I eat. How long does it take to really improve your gut if you make these changes?
So everybody's different, and that's not a fun answer, but it depends on where you're starting out, right? If you're at the state of just, dysbiosis, like your gut is really not in a healthy place, it might take a little bit longer. I suggest for most people, at least 3 months. You really want to get those good probiotics in there and then continue to nurture them. That's just kind of a general amount of time, about 3 months. You might just start to see some results. Some people are, of course, sooner, and then some people a little longer, but 3 months on average.
Tara, is there anything else? You've been so informative. We really appreciate this interview. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Of course. So again, just to recap everything we talked about, if you have a funny feeling that something's off, could be your gut. So ways to kind of improve that, it's either going to be through foods or, of course, through supplementing with probiotics. Pendulum Life is a really wonderful company backed by science. We've got some great probiotics there. So definitely go to pendulumlife.com if you're interested in a really great probiotic. And happy New Year. Don't forget about your goals. As you mentioned earlier, it's not too late to get back to that healthy eating to improve your health.
So true, Tara. Tara Carr, registered dietitian, gut health expert. We appreciate the knowledge. Thanks so very much.
Of course. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Nation's Finest. It is a nonprofit organization serving veterans since 1972. It's been around now for more than 50 years, and it's an organization that celebrates with the recently launched Nation's Finest 50 Award. It's aimed at recognizing and celebrate those who have gone above and beyond to make a real impact in the lives of veterans and their families. Joining us to talk a little bit more about this organization and what they're up to right now is Kobe Langley. He's a two-tour veteran, recipient of the Bronze Star, chairman of the selection committee for the award. Mr. Langley, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, and hello to Memphis.
Appreciate you being here, Mr. Langley. So let's talk about this nonprofit organization, Nation's Finest. Briefly explain it to us.
Sure. So it started after the Vietnam War. 2 Vietnam veterans came home, Pete Cameron and Wayne Eisenhart, and they realized that there was some support that was needed for themselves as well as other veterans. So they started a behavioral health support system for veterans and began to seek out veterans that were homeless or on the verge of homeless. And so they started a shelter. Started very modestly, a small home, 30 veterans. Fast forward to today, they're in 31 locations. We serve 7,000 veterans annually, and we provide over 300 units of transitional and permanent housing every single year.
That's fantastic. And you guys have been around since 1972, so very well established over 5 decades here. Tell me about the awards, the Nation's Finest Award.
Sure. So for the past 50 years, we've been guiding veterans home. This is what we say, yeah? And so to mark this 50-year anniversary, we wanted to honor and respect the legacy of service of our founders. Just 4 everyday American citizens decide they want to make a difference, and today they certainly have. So we're looking for 50 other veterans who over the past 50 years have done amazing things in support of our veteran military family community, and we want to celebrate them together. So there's plenty of people that fit that description. Many Tennesseans, I think of people like Lieutenant General Frank Andrews, Andrews Air Force Base, right? Founder of the B-17 bomber out there in Tennessee. Individuals like this, you started the Air Force, basically. Other organizations and individuals that might be grassroots, but they've had a critical impact in providing supportive services to the most vulnerable of our veteran military family community.
Who can be nominated, Mr. Langley? Is it anybody? Does it have to be a certain person from a certain demographic?
No, ideally we would like to see representation from the past 50 years, just to celebrate the legacy of service of our 50-year anniversary. But we have nominees right now on the website that range from well-known artists like Tom Hanks to philanthropists like Mackenzie Scott, who co-founded Amazon. We have small veteran-run organizations like an organization run by Rick Ritter, who started an organic program to help healthy and foods for veterans. But you can see a full list on the gallery at nationsfinest.org, and anybody can nominate and anybody can be considered.
Let's talk about where people can go for more information, maybe perhaps a way to nominate people in the future.
Absolutely. The easiest way to reach us for a nomination is to visit nationsfinest.org. On nationsfinest.org, you'll see a little bit about the organization, but you will also see at the very top our 50 for 50 campaign that will help nominate these amazing Americans that have helped contribute to the health and wellness of our veteran military family community. Nationsfinest.org, that's the place to sign up your hero that you believe has made an exceptional contribution to our community.
Well, Colby Langley, we really appreciate you and what your organization does for so many veterans all across the country. Thanks very much for explaining it to us and our viewers and where they can go for more information and for nominations. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks so much, and thanks, WMC.
Good morning. We're starting off our day with some sunshine, a look at here in Midtown Memphis, but we'll end up with clouds rolling in here a little bit later today. Now it'll be gradual, partly cloudy by noon. We'll end up at 49 by then, 56 degrees at 3 o'clock, but mostly cloudy at 3 today. It won't be dark and cloudy. You'll still have some sunshine in between those, but just giving you a heads up, you'll notice more later. 52 degrees at 5, and then we're down to 47 at 7 o'clock tonight. Partly cloudy this evening and not as cold as what we had last night. Last night, most of us were around that freezing mark of 32 degrees. Tonight in Memphis, around 40, 37 in Somerville, 36 in Brownsville. We're at 36 in Bolivar tonight. Mid to upper 30s across North Mississippi, 38 in Clarksdale, right around 37 in Holly Springs, and then upper 30s from Forest City into Helena, and 39 in Marion tonight. High temperatures tomorrow, though. back up into the 60s and then upper 60s to near 70 on Wednesday, lower 30s on Thursday. But check out that drop in between Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back down to the 40s. Look at that. That'll be because of a cold front moving through. And that front, you guessed it, will also bring us our next chance for rain. A first alert to some showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Most of those will be in the morning into early afternoon. Let's check out first alert futurecast. So as we go past midnight, rain starts moving in. So overnight Wednesday into Thursday, some showers begin from Blytheville into Jonesboro. Rain moves through Memphis probably around 7 a.m. Some of the heaviest rain will be in northeast Mississippi between 11 and noon. Oxford, Ripley, Corinth, and Selmer could have some rumbles of thunder, even some small hail with this, but then it's out of here as we get through the afternoon. So by 3 o'clock we dry out, and we'll even see some clouds moving out that evening. Rainfall totals about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, so it'll be a pretty good soaking for us on Thursday morning and early afternoon, but not enough rain to where I think we'll see any flash flooding or anything like that. And again, severe chances low with this. Over the weekend, we keep it dry and sunny, but again, it will be colder behind that front. Temperatures in the upper 40s on Saturday. We'll have some cold nights Saturday night into early Sunday morning. We're down into the 30s, and then 55 is the high on Sunday. You can always get your forecast on our First Alert weather app, including that weekend forecast if you want to see that again. And we just posted an update detailing the timing for that Thursday rain if you want to check that out again too. It's 56 degrees today, 40 tonight, 61 on Tuesday. We're in the upper 60s on Wednesday, lower 60s Thursday, and then temperatures in the 40s Friday, Saturday, back up to 55 on Sunday.
Okay, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 digital desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. Action News 5 at midday with Ariana Poindexter will begin at the top of the hour. She'll have all the news and weather for you, and then we got the Action News 5 digital desk starting bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We'll see you then.